Very busy agenda in front of us. It is the tradition of the county board to take a moment of silence in honor of those men and women in uniform, both here and abroad, and also to remember those innocent victims of war. It will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So, a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning on this cold April morning, and welcome. I will turn to the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Boyle? Here. Commissioner Olson?
Here.
Commissioner Rukavina?
Here.
Commissioner Stauber?
Here.
Commissioner Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Yugovich? Present. And Chair Commissioner Jewell.
Thank you to the clerk for that. Ladies and gentlemen, our chair, Commissioner Jewell, is out of town, so today I will be serving as the vice chair of the St. Louis County Board, serving as the chair. With that said, at this time, citizens will be allowed to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Are there any speakers here who wish to speak to an item not on the agenda? And I know I have two people signed up, Charlie and Jim. Whoever wants to go first. And then I'll look and see if there's anyone else. Charlie, if you would please state your name and position for the record.
My name is Charles Bevel. I'm the City Councilor with the City of Virginia. I'm going to use the address of the City of Virginia, 327 First Street South, Virginia, Minnesota. Record is I'm here as Vice Mayor of the City of Virginia to oppose an item that's coming up in our agenda later on. This is the LCCMR grant request that's coming up for $3.5 million. So with that, need any more information, Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Verbo.
And the reason we're doing this, the mayor and I have had conversation. We have not received enough data and information on this request of the city. The city owns the public utilities. This is for the public utilities and biomass, this grant request. We have not received information, and we own that public utility in the City of Virginia. And the communications are not coming forward to us from the utilities. We just had a meeting yesterday at 3:30. I talked to the manager of the utilities. He's aware of this request. He filled me in a little bit. At this point, until we find out what's going to happen at the legislative level with Xcel Energy, all this biomass, with what may happen for projects that have been proposed and things that have gone awry at the legislature and voted down at the legislature, we would like to look at all our legal arguments and all of this from this original biomass projects put together. We have not had an opportunity to do this, so at this point we would like you to table this request until we get a chance to look at all this and come back, or to oppose it and defeat it at this point in time. The grant, from my understanding, is a request to continue to have biomass last longer, but if we don't have a market for it, if there are things that may happen from proposals that I've heard and that may happen at the legislative level with buyouts, etc., we don't have any official word on that at this point in time, but we're in agreement that we need lots more information for our 7-member city council. With that, I'll entertain anybody that wants to ask me some questions about the opposition.
Councilor Verbo, it is not the history of this board to do that.
Oh, okay.
To make that statement. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I will then look to the next speaker who signed up, Jim Tackle. I'll give his position before he gets here. Jim is one of our large farmers in St. Louis County. He's a dairy producer over in the Clinton Cherry area. Jim.
Right, Jim Tackle, Clinton Township. We have a dairy farm. I'm a retired ag teacher, so this is my retirement job. So myself with my son, we run about 330 dairy cows. And we employ about 4 full-time employees and 7 part-time employees. I'm here to talk about the ASH program and the Laurentian Energy Authority, that how helpful and useful it is. First, from a perspective of generating revenue for local producers in the county, it's a market for wood that has no other usable purposes. And in our case, last fall and this spring, we sold about $40,000 worth of wood that we turned back into the community and invest in our farm and in employees and pay taxes on. So generates money there. Both Virginia and Hibbing produce about 2,800 tons of wood ash. It's a byproduct. It takes about 100 tons of wood to make 1 ton of ash in their process. And that's about 560,000 tons, or about $2.24 million to local landowners in the county for wood that would not be usable for other purposes. And the ash, it's about 2,800 tons per unit, so about 5,600. And that is used as a fertilizer source and lime source in our fields to bring up the fertility and increase crop yields. In many cases, it can double and triple it to be able to produce alfalfa. The nutrient profile of the ash is such that it's a perfect fit for producing alfalfa, which helps us to reduce our purchase protein costs too from out of the area. So alfalfa will run 20 to 24% protein that we can utilize in our operation. So that's about it.
Jim, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here who would like to address the board on items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none. At this point, I'm going to turn to Shar Deruli, who is one of the officers. Shar, if you would, please. And I'm going to give you a list of before Shar does the welcome, I'm going to give you a list of the officers here in one of the great communities that I represent, Leonidas. We have Mayor Jim Prout, Mary Balthazar is the city clerk. That's a voting city clerk here. Joanne Milton is another counselor, and Patrick Medvid, along with, again, Shar Chirulli, who's a counselor here as well. Shar, please.
I'd like to welcome everybody here to the city of Leonidas. It's really nice to have the board here, and we're especially grateful to Keith. He's helped this community. He attends some of our council meetings, and we appreciate you. And it's nice to recognize Joe, that the road will be named after him, so that's pretty special for Leonidas and West Emma. So welcome everybody, enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much, Councilor Chirulli. With that, ladies and gentlemen, for items that are listed on the board agenda, there will be an opportunity for citizens to speak to that item when it appears on the board agenda. We do have the consent agenda in front of us, commissioners. Is there anyone who cares to move the consent agenda? Moved by Commissioner Boyle.
Second.
Supported by Commissioner Rukavina. Commissioner Boyle.
Chair, if it's all right, I'd like to pull 17-174 off the consent onto the regular.
Very, very good. Commissioner Boyle is asked to pull item number 1 under Health and Human Services. Are there any other items that commissioners care to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. The next item that we have in front of us is under our regular agenda, the first item under Public Works and Transportation Committee. And Commissioner Stauber, I would turn to you if you care to allow someone else to move this, or however you would care to do that.
Say, Mr. Chair, if not to interrupt, if we're going to go into resolutions, well, go ahead, I'll proceed. I just wanted to remind you that we've got people waiting as well, so we're going to take on the Joe Begich resolution first.
I am going to be bringing We're going to interrupt the Public Works agenda.
Okay.
We're going to do item number 1 first, and then we will go back to Health and Human Services and before we go to the item number 2. Okay, so trying to make
no.
accommodations for our Health and Human Services Director, who, like every other day, has about 27 meetings planned after this one. So with that, and thank you for that reminder, Administrator Gray.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stauber, this is under your committee.
I appreciate that. I am going to defer to Commissioner Rukavina.
Well, Mr. Chair, thank you, and I would move resolution number 17151.
It has been moved. I would like to proudly support that as the chair of this committee, if that would be okay with my commission members. So it has been moved and supported. Commissioner Rukavina, you made the motion. I'll let you speak first to this.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I guess it's an honor. You know, I kind of hang around with Joe Begich. In fact, I brought the picture when we met with Bernie Sanders and his wife before he won the New Hampshire primary in Duluth. And there was no, security or anything to let 2 Croatians from the range, meet with a presidential candidate with no security was kind of a frightening thing. But so Joe and I have hung around together for years, and I had the honor to serve with him the first, I believe, 6 years that I was in the legislature. And I do have to say that, when I lost my parents, it was like Joe and Carol became my surrogate parents, so to speak. They've been very helpful to me. Joe's looking at me grouchy, kind of just like, maybe an old man would. But anyway, this is really an honor. I do have to tell a quick story, because the reason why this highway is where it's at is because it was originally supposed to go right by Joe's workshop, but Joe pulled some strings and made sure the highway was a beautiful curve around that dump and had a beautiful view of the mine pits that produce a lot of the taconite in Commissioner Nelson's district. So it's an honor to name this highway after Joe. I think he drives it almost every day to go to your friend Conrad Jacobson's sawmill and give them advice out there. And, Joe has a long history in his family of participating in government. Not only was he the mayor of Eveleth, he was the state representative for this area. His brother Nick, I believe, was the first Croatian to serve in the Congress, and he lost his brother Joe in an accident with then Speaker of the House, Harold Boggs, years ago. They've never found the plane. And then his son, Joe's nephew, became the senator from Alaska, Mark Begich, for 6 years. And so it's an honor to move this and name that highway after Joe. And like I told him on the phone the other day, he's got a building named after him now, he's got a highway named after him, and he didn't have to die to get either one named after him. So with that, congratulations.
I know you want to take a vote before Commissioner Rukavina, I have a few comments to make, and then we will take a vote and bring Representative Begich forward. This is, first of all, Joe, Carol, I promise that the signs will not go up on that highway until we fix that highway, which is going to happen this summer, okay? We chose this date because today we are here for the only time this year. We are meeting here in Leonidas. And West Eveleth and Leonidas, a lot of people think is one community, but it is indeed two separate communities. So I wanted to do this here today. About 5 years ago, Representative Begich introduced me at a Eveleth City Council meeting. And with all due respect, Commissioner Rukavina, former Representative Rukavina, he introduced me as the best commissioner that he's had in his lifetime. I'm still trying to live up to that, folks, okay? Because Joe's been around a long time. But today I get to introduce Joe as the best representative that I've had in my lifetime. And I will say this, that and again, with all due respect to Commissioner Rukavina, former Representative Rukavina, and my current representative, Joe served Joe has served the public now for over 50 years. I'll tell you, if you serve up here in an elected office, and if you mess up, you should expect to still see Joe come to your meeting and tell you, don't mess up what's been done up here on the Iron Range. And that he has served with a, first of all, Joe is fearless. That's a quality that I absolutely admire in him. But he has served with a passion and a compassion that really is the definition of what an elected official should be. So, Joe, with that, today, hopefully this board, I believe we have 6 solid votes up here. I know Joe's good at counting votes, but we will be naming a road in honor of someone who has served this community for over 50 years. And I have to tell you, there's one other little fact that you need to know about Joe, and it's probably why he's such a favorite with me. Joe's mother and father, they used to own a little dairy farm just down the road. I'm pointing pretty much at it, I think, Joe? No, I'm close. It's someplace in here, okay? And so Joe's a farm boy. So y'all know that I've never met a farm boy that I didn't want to embrace. With that, is there any other comments by commissioners before we vote on this? Commissioner Yukovich.
Joe, I want to say congratulations. I've known you for many years now. You've always been supportive. I've always gone and asked questions of Joe, and it's always interesting because I usually see him at a number of functions, whether throughout the range, and he usually had his sidekick Tom with him. So I get the chance to see them both, but Joe always gave me good advice, and you may not believe this, but Joe will always tell you exactly what he's thinking. and I respect that, and you've been so good to me over the years. Thank you so much, and congratulations. That'll be a great addition to St. Louis County to have that sign up with your name on a fixed road. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Yugovich. Why doesn't it surprise me that Yugovich and Begich talk a lot? With that said, all those in favor of the renaming of Highway 101, repaired 101, correct? Engineer Faldesi? Correct. The signs will go up. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried unanimously. Representative Begich, would you please come forward with your lovely bride and get a picture with us? I believe Commissioner Rukavina has something for you to take back to your wonderful home. And Joe has the best woodworking shop in America, I'm pretty sure. But with that, congratulations. Are we all going to get a picture with the representative?
Yes.
We are.
Yes.
We're going to.
And Joe, I mean, you're never at a lack of words. Do you want to say anything at all?
He's going to get to speak after we get the picture. I promise you.
This is for the garage or the side of the house or on the fence there with all the other political signs. So this is yours to keep.
Thank you.
So
Representative, why don't you turn it around so we'll
so
get a picture of it too here, right there.
we can all.
We are.
You have your wife in the picture with you.
I want to point out that Joe did bring his adult supervision with today. Carol has stood by his side for how many years, Carol?
So wait, so they're gonna-
65 years, which makes her eligible for sainthood. Okay?
Come on, we'll get the flag in the back. Yeah.
Commissioners?
The highway that he himself had rerouted.
By the way, he got a beautiful letter from Commissioner Jewell.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay, everybody look over here and smile. Gonna have to do this without the flash so it doesn't reflect on the signs. Keep smiling. That is good. Thank you.
Usually they try to get Mike inside, Joe, and that doesn't work very well, okay? More?
Nope, we're good. We're good.
would you please get one with Tom?
Are you the new
And
commissioner?
Carol and Joe?
Okay, nice to
Tom.
see you.
Carol, if you would stay put for just a second, I want to get one. I know Tom wants one with the three of you.
Come on.
So we're gonna, Carol, stay right there, yes.
Don't run away on me.
Andrew keeps trying to get in every photo that we got here.
Carol, there you go.
I thought Joe was trying to get his hand in my pocket.
There you go.
Looking for those notes I always kept. I learned that from him.
Joe, if you would care to address the board, please. Talk about Representative Begich.
Well, I don't know what to say, really. Thank you. There's a lot of history behind that road.
There is.
It was almost a civil war over that road. But it's a good road. It'll be better after it's fixed. I don't know what, I appreciate this.
We appreciate you.
I lived by that road for all my life, 87 years. So it'd be nice to finish my time out with a new road. Thank you all, appreciate you all. Mayor of Chisholm.
Carol, do the best you can with them, okay? All right. I'm going to wait one moment for Tom here, and we'll get started with the balance of our agenda, folks. I did want to mention, we did have two other elected officials here that came specifically, one came specifically for this. The chair of the Clinton Town Board, Ray Savados, is here. Just wanted to recognize him, along with Councilor Baraboo, who stuck around for that ceremony as well. But this road actually runs, the uniqueness of 101 is it actually runs through Evelyn, through Leonidas, into Clinton and Mount Iron. And we had the approval of all of the mayors, and everyone was enthusiastic about having this renaming. So thank you, Supervisor Spados, for being here today. If you recognize Mr. Spados' name, it's because he also has served for a long time on our Planning Commission and does some really good work for us there. So thank you for that as well. With that, and getting back to our regular...
Maybe Supervisor Swados wants to say something about his friend Joe Begich, because Ray was employed at the IRRB.
Absolutely.
For years, and then, as you said, he's been very active on the Clinton Town Board and on our planning, and I think Board of Adjustment too, isn't he? Yes?
Just on our Planning Commission,
Okay.
but...
CDBG.
And CDBG, yes.
I know it was something.
Ray continues to serve.
But it's
Supervisor Spados.
I've known Joe since 1974 when I started work at IRRB, and through Joe's legislation is why there was a Mine Reclamation Division at IRRB, and I served there for 32 years, and I owe Joe a lot. He taught me a lot, and I really, really respect him and for what he's done, and our friendship has developed more and more over the years, and he's just a wonderful man. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Spados. Thank you for that, Tom. I would have missed that one, and I shouldn't have, so I appreciate it. With that, we have a very busy agenda, and I know I need to get some people moving here. Commissioners, at this point, we're going to adjust the regular agenda, and we're going to go to item number 1 under the Health and Human Services Committee. Commissioner Boyle.
I'll move it.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Boyle, supported by Commissioner Olson. Administrator Gregg.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Director Mersch is here and can talk to this. This was on the consent agenda and did pass with the unanimous support of the board at our committee of the whole. But in a meeting with Commissioners Olson and Commissioners Boyle, as we're talking about the opioid crisis, which has been a very hot topic of conversation for the entire board. And we thought that it would be appropriate to bring forward the efforts that are being made under the leadership of Director Mersch as our lead person on the board's focus area around substance abuse and mental illness, and talk about the expansion and the need for treatment and recovery resources for people who are struggling with the opioid addictions and the lack of treatment. So it's an area that the hospitals, stakeholders, are really embracing as a challenge to be addressed. We're part of that mix, and we thought it would be appropriate, after talking again with Commissioners Boyle and Olson, for the board to hear a little bit of the strategic efforts and tactical efforts that Lene is leading on behalf of the county with our stakeholders and internally. So with your permission, I'd turn it over to her.
Thank you, Administrator Gray. Director Mersch.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson, Commissioners. Yeah, this is really just a chance, hopefully a good news item. The item on your agenda is authorization to apply. This is a very fast-moving state grant opportunity, and it's very targeted. So it's a good time to just share what's a part of that proposal, because it's very much a part of this collaborative work that's going on that we call ORDS, our planning stakeholder community, and then also just share the key partners, the key aspects of this proposal, and then some of the rest of the context of what all is happening right now. So this grant, the authorization to apply that's in front of you, will be submitted this week. And it is for a 14-month grant from the state government. It's coming from federal funds, that 21st Century Cures Act, out of the federal government. And this grant is entirely focused on immediate action. We have to demonstrate that we can immediately improve access to treatment for individuals with opioid use disorder, that we can decrease the gaps in unmet treatment needs for individuals, and then reduce opioid-related deaths through increasing prevention, treatment, and recovery efforts. So very action-oriented starting July 1st. So we are uniquely positioned. We think we have a good chance of at least getting some of the just over $2 million that we're applying for because of all of the work that's been going on for the last couple of years. So specifically, when we submitted this board letter, we had just seen the RFP and we were working on the response. There are a number of categories. What's included on this handout I just provided is what we are submitting. We are responding to Category 5, which provides bridge services for people experiencing opioid use disorder, transitioning from detox settings into a specific opioid withdrawal unit. So this is in partnership with our key partner, the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment, but it's not focused exclusively on Duluth. This transition to an opioid-specific withdrawal unit is for the entire county and really the entire region. So people will be, from throughout the county, the outreach will happen and people can stay in a temporary location until one of the 6 beds is open. The exciting thing about how the state has structured this grant opportunity is that by the time this grant is done, there will be different funding in place to continue this as a reimbursable cost for the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment. And so having this 14-month program is really kind of a bridge to get to that spot. So again, we feel like it's a very sustainable proposal. Number 6, the expanded office-based opioid treatment, again, is with the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment. They see serving up to 200 patients with the goal to stabilize and move those individuals to primary care then. So that's really the strength of this proposal. People don't necessarily stay with CADT. They are stabilized and they are guaranteed, is how Gary Olson is presenting this, and they will be served by their primary care physicians throughout the community. And if something goes wrong with their mix of medication-assisted therapy, their withdrawal, their tapering, which is really the vision here, they will go back to the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment to be stabilized again with very intensive staff there. So this is really like when you hear about a hub and spoke, which is really the design of the state in treating substance use disorders in general. CADT is the hub, but the spokes are all over the region and definitely into northern St. Louis County. Category 8 is a small category, but it's a lot of work. It's expanded naloxone or Narcan treatment. So we are partnering with the UMD Pharmacy, who's going to be doing outreach to pharmacies throughout St. Louis County. And we're partnering with RAN, the Rural AIDS Action Network, who will be doing, again, specific Narcan outreach in designated communities, again, throughout St. Louis County. So big outreach to northern St. Louis County specifically. So this category includes outreach to pharmacists, outreach to students. There's some proactive, more prevention-style communication outreach to high school and college-age students. There's outreach in specific communities, and then there's outreach that's focused on drug court families. The UMD School of Pharmacy is a partner specifically with the 6th Judicial District, primarily in Carlton County, but starting to become more of a partner in the St. Louis County drug court efforts. And so that outreach will be directly to those families. And then there will be town hall meetings, which will be done in conjunction with number 9, which is the last category, is innovative response. And this, our partner in this category is the Lake Superior Drug and Violent Crime Task Force. It's a significant part of our proposal as well, just under $400,000. And the Drug Task Force will be doing outreach to first responders and other law enforcement agencies throughout St. Louis County. They'll be doing naloxone distribution. They will have a coordinator, because we have to track everything. But we have a prescribing physician that can follow up once this grant period is over, so that every single agency can have access there. We will also be on our end. The board supported those 4 positions through our substance abuse prevention intervention activities. So 3 of those individuals are skilled Rule 25 assessors. And so the coordination that's part of this innovative response is not only the outreach to law enforcement agencies from the Drug and Violent Crimes Task Force, but specifically whenever there is a non-fatal overdose, the St. Louis County employees go immediately to that site anytime, and they do that immediate assessment, stabilization to treatment, and then hook into the broader hub and spoke model for the region. So that's a key piece of this proposal. And then again, the town hall meetings, which are really kind of the prevention that we're including here. So it's prevention, a little bit of education, reducing stigmas. You all heard Vern Wagner when he was, honored by the Public Health Award, just how it's hard for families that are dealing with this kind of an issue in their families. So those have been successful in the past, and that's how we're including them here, since most of this grant is very action-oriented. So the measures that we're going to be held responsible for, if we're successful in any of these pieces, are reduced overdose deaths and reduced demand for heroin and opioids. Our formal consortium partners, who have all submitted letters of support, have gotten all the approval from their own agencies, include the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment, the Lake Superior Drug and Violent Crimes Task Force, RAN, and the UMD College of Pharmacy. So the entire University of Minnesota system has bought into this. In addition, we have letters of support from all of our informal partners, which include Carlton County and the 6th Judicial District, specifically for the drug courts. So that is what's included here, which is why it's a great time to share a little bit information, and it just is a great example of the 50 plus professionals who are what the ORS network is. Now that's the ORS group in southern St. Louis County, but I'm really excited to share that the group that's meeting up north is really gaining some momentum, kind of changed who's staffing it from a St. Louis County Public Health Human Service perspective, and have some key partners really coming in who really see the strength of working together. So the medical community, again, the law enforcement community, and the county, and our providers up there. So any questions? Otherwise, I can give you a few other updates if you have any specific questions on this grant submission.
Thank you, Director Mersch. No surprise that I see process in these documents. And I do have a list of commissioners, Commissioner Boyle, Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Rukavina, in that order.
I mean, I got more comments than questions at this point. Do you want to finish?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. So in terms of the broader strategies, again, we're well positioned to apply for these funds because of the broader work that's ongoing. And so I don't plan to go through the second handout in great detail, but this is the best update right now of what the 4 working groups are looking at that are part of ORS. And so I summarize them at the bottom of your little one page here, but there's a prevention, intervention, harm reduction subcommittee, and I put the point person. There's a treatment subcommittee or working group, recovery and support, and then enforcement. And so here, this is how we're trying to structure and strategize about what's going well, what are the needs, how do we build and mend those gaps so that we're moving forward as a community. So this is really a planning document that we're using as we prepare with the City of Duluth to do this joint opioid summit, which sounds like it's going to be in June. But these are the kinds of things, and then highlighting whatever comes out of this grant award, which we will know by early June. So this is really just for your information. It's a working document. It's updated every single meeting, but it's a good reference point of just how broad the efforts are at this point. If you go to the back, these are just a few other updates that I've had the opportunity to share some information. You know, internal to Public Health Human Services, we've been reviewing how we use the 4 individuals dedicated to substance abuse prevention and intervention activities. So we're really focused as a department on strengthening connections within our own departments, whether it's through our public health prevention programs, all the ways we're working with families through our targeted home visiting, our Superior Babies program, things like that, to how we're using the best practices called SBIRT, a tool, a screening, brief intervention, referral to treatment, how we're just building into that into our standard practice, whether again for public health nurses or for social workers throughout the agency. We're really focusing on how we work with children and family services. I mean, that's where we see the majority of new people coming to St. Louis County Public Health and Human Services. So how are we seamlessly accessing all the strengths of this intervention and prevention initiative, not only for those parents, we know that substance abuse is the primary reason kids are removed from the home here, but for those kids themselves, they now have 2 factors that are going to kind of predispose them to their own substance abuse disorders, possibly. And so we really want to do some targeted prevention there. They've had a disruptive event in their families with the intervention of the child protection unit, and then they also have a parent struggling with a substance use disorder. So really focusing on that. And then looking how we can partner with everybody, including IROA coordinators, county extension, all the ways that we can partner for more school-based primary prevention throughout the county. So that's kind of what we're doing internal to Public Health Human Services. I already highlighted second, there are priority connections within the community, both north and south. Legislatively, there's plenty that's been introduced related to substance use disorders. Some of it would be very helpful in terms of providing funding streams, especially medical assistance funding streams for new things like peer recovery support specialists or some of the efforts of CADT that right now aren't funded appropriately. There's also some legislation introduced that would change the role of the county in Rule 25 assessment. So we're not sure at this point, but we're watching that closely, so I just want that on your radar. I wanted to highlight a little bit about the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment. Many of you lived their role in stepping up with ClearPath. That's huge. You all can speak to that. Many of you were here and involved in that. But I guess the way I want to share it is there's plenty of proof as we look at their finances. They're our partner. We contract with them for many services, and they're our partner in this proposal. They're definitely operating at a loss right now. And it's because they're operating as a responsible provider. And so we're really excited to work with them on this proposal to the state. They have a lot of wisdom in how they're moving away from methadone. And I know I've had conversations with many commissioners about that, but I just wanted to be sure and share a little bit about that. They're really seeing various tracks offered and very much focused on tapering and very much focused on getting individuals to be served within their local communities by their own physicians. And they really are building a strong network for that purpose. Lastly, I just wanted to share there's been a lot of grant activity. There's 2 grants I wanted to highlight. One that the board authorized us to apply for, I believe, last board meeting, which is in our homeless programs area, but it's really between our continuum of care and our coordinated entry point, which is how anyone struggling with homelessness gets on a list and prioritized now countywide for for short-term housing and how that coordinated entry works with people struggling with substance abuse. And so that is a grant request that just went in for $200,000 a year for northern St. Louis County. It's very much a focus and a partnership with Boys Fort. There's a separate proposal that was submitted by the City of Duluth for the southern St. Louis County area. And then lastly, the Lake Superior Drug and Violent Crime Task Force also recently submitted, or is just submitting for a very large Department of Justice grant, which again, we are seen as a partner in many of this, and it's very complementary. It's all about, again, purchase and distribution of naloxone, enhancing that access to Rule 25, and then coordinated community and public outreach. So it's very much a partnership with this specific grant.
Thank you, Director Murphy. 10 years of training, commissioners, so that she talks at a speed that I can actually hear.
I couldn't keep up.
And comprehend, okay? She used to talk much faster, Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Boyle.
I was going to say that it's not only her talking fast, but I don't think any of us could keep up with her on day-to-day operations either with Director Mersch. First, I just wanted to say, while this is a strategic plan priority area, I mean, how many hours you invested in this, Director Mersch, you and your staff, is extremely impressive, and thank you. And, you know, I think this board stepped up to the plate 3-4 years ago with the direction of moving towards Lake Superior, away from a for-profit methadone clinic to a nonprofit local, was the direction that we started. And I think you see where we're at today with the model. It is with our hope that the state that we are granted, I think we're in good shape for this, but I also want to lay the seed that if this doesn't go through, is that we need to step up again to look at what direction does the county want to move forward on this. And the one thing that I know Director Mersch laid specifically on her is the out-of-home placement ties directly into this, the number one issue on our plate, on what we're trying to cut costs on. And it's going to be on this preventive care. And with the grant application with improving access, decreasing the gaps, and you know, preventive care along with prevention of deaths is spot on. And in the long run, it'll save lives and save the county specifically a ton of money that we have to go for. Again, we're not the only county in the state that is dealing with this. All of our counties are. All the counties in this nation are dealing with this issue. And one of the things I want us to keep an eye on is that $500 million that's proposed by President Trump regarding opiate addiction. This is not only something that the county has to tackle, local governments, but it's state and the federal partners too, to make this work. We can't do it on our own. But I think this is a start. This is a platform. Again, Director Marsh, thank you so much for laying this out for us. It answers a lot of questions to where we got to move in the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Olson.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. I just wanted to commend Director Mersch and the ORS group for all the work that they've done to put this together. This kind of a turnaround for a grant, if you don't have things in place that you can already make actionable items, there's no way you can write this and put this into action. You have to have all of that pre-work and planning done. And a lot of that comes without direct funding. It comes from people's hearts and minds when they get together as a whole community to make those decisions together, and that's clearly what happened here. So that's what really made us ready to be able to take advantage of this opportunity, and I just wanted to mention that and say thank you for your work.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Commissioner Rukavina.
Well, if I could get Director Mersch back
please.
up here, because, you know, I looked at this on the agenda the other day and I thought, well, you know, it's just a grant application, but now it got more complicated, and glad you gave us a somewhat brief overview that I had a hard time following. What is the actual grant dollar amount, you know?
Commissioner Rukavina, it's going to be just over $2 million. That's being finalized today and tomorrow. I get a draft, I think, at noon today to finalize.
So over $2 million, and that's a competitive grant?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now you mentioned that this was for the entire county, but when you were zipping through everything, You know, I heard the city of Duluth and the 6th Judicial District and down in Duluth and Carleton County, and I see here that we have United Way 211. Is that the Duluth United Way for the Duluth area? Oh, because we have United Way of Northeastern Minnesota. I'm just wondering if they were involved. But the beds are going to be in Duluth then if we get the bid.
Yeah, Commissioner Gavina, that's true. CADT is in a position to reallocate beds. We submitted a letter of support for their licensure. They're also in a staffing position to add the medical oversight that's required.
Who is?
The Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment.
And they have beds already assigned under a different program, or?
Yep. So we've been working with the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment for over a year on this idea. The commissioners, you all supported a $300,000 investment of seed money to get this started, and we've been trying to find a different way to fund it with this possibility coming.
Well, as both Commissioner Boyle and Commissioner Olson stated, it's a terrible problem, and the out-of-home placement goes with a lot of it with the opioid use. But we also have a problem up north, and I'm wondering, other than hearing about Boys Fort, which a little bit of the reservation boundaries are in St. Louis County and the majority in Coochichee County, I didn't hear any working with, and I'm wondering if you are working with like Fairview Clinic, and hospital, which is in Commissioner Jugovich's district, and I've got a good little hospital district. I think some of you got letters on it in the Cook Hospital and Cook Clinic, which is just fantastic, by the way. I've switched all of my medical care from St. Luke's to the Cook Clinic, by the way, recently. So it's a good place for you to go, Mr. Nelson, along with me. But in any event, are you working with them also? Because we have problems up here, and being that my hinterland, which often gets ignored, pays 25% of the property taxes in this county, are we going to have something up north soon? And are you working with Fairview and Cook Clinic? And, you know, there are beds available, you know, in all of these hospitals around here, so I'm just wondering if you're working with them also.
Thank you, Commissioner Rukavina. Director Mersch.
Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Rukavina, absolutely. I would say, first of all, we're working with the clinics primarily through this ORS North group, which is where the innovation, the local needs, the strategies are developed. And that's starting. That's probably in month 4 or 5 of really having some momentum north. And remember, this specific grant proposal has to start July 1st, and so it's definitely taking initiatives that had some momentum already. However, the focus is very much on unmet needs, and so I can highlight a few of the pieces that are very focused on northern St. Louis County.
You can, Mr. Chair, you
More
can get that to me, and I
Sure.
don't know if Commissioner Nelson.
Happily. But it's definitely a focus.
What I do, though, want to ask is what other resources? I mean, you mentioned the Sheriff's Department and our staff and others. Are we then putting our own dollars, staff time into this whole? And what if indeed we do get it, which I hope we do, our staff again is going to be involved in that. So what are they not doing then that they're doing now if we get this grant?
Commissioner Rukavina, that's a great question. It's a 14-month grant. There's no extensions, and it's very action-oriented. So the primary funding is going to our partners. We're not holding the primary funding. However, we are keeping 10% of the administrative costs because we are staffing the coordinator. It's one of the positions that the county board added 3 years ago with the Substance Abuse and Prevention Initiative. They're already doing this work in this outreach. They're already involved with ORS in Duluth and up north. So coordinating the grant, they're the only person that's positioned to do that work. And so one of our team members is doing that. We also have staff costs included as in-kind support for this 14-month period for those Rural 25 assessors, both north and south, who will be going out to wherever the non-fatal overdose happened and doing that initial assessment, stabilization to treatment. And so we are including that as an in-kind cost, because for us to juggle it any other way for a short term doesn't really get us anywhere. So it made the proposal stronger to include it as an in-kind cost.
Commissioner Rukavina, I'm going to allow you to continue.
One more question, just on
Okay,
that, and then
okay.
I'm done. So on the in-kind cost, then, do we get, in the competitive grant, do we get credit for that and for the coordinator? That makes our grant more special or more, I guess, attractive to whoever is deciding to grant this grant?
Commissioner Rukavina, I mean, that's the hope. So, yeah, I think it's reflective of the true work and the work that our staff is already doing, and the role of the coordinator.
Mr. Chair, excuse me for
Thank you, Commissioner
worrying about
Rukavina.
northern St. Louis County.
And
Yeah,
thank you, Director
absolutely.
Mersch. I'll turn to Commissioner Stauber.
Thank
And
you.
Commissioner Boyle in that order. They have-
Thank you, Chair Nelson. Director Mersch, you've been speaking for 21 minutes. Continue on, because this is some of the best news that we've heard in a long time. It is just so, Commissioner Boyle, you and Commissioner Olson, who have driven the bus on this and have given some personal knowledge and experience through your responsibilities, is so critical to this success. And you say the ORS group, and I immediately think of Dr. Bilden, who's the best of the best, lives in our county and is offering this up. And so I looked at a couple of things that you've mentioned. Just a couple weeks ago in the city of Hermantown, we had some presentations for folks that delivered Narcan for somebody who was overdosing. If that's not there, it's not a save, it's a funeral. And so that's extremely important that we continue to push that forward, because as Commissioner Rukavina says, it's happening southern and northern part of the county. And this is just really, really good news. Right now, as I hear you speak, Director Mersch, we're being reactive with the understanding that we have to get in front of it too. And that's where the other monies will come in. And that's where I think that the board needs to push our legislators to fund these programs. Because either we do it now, preventive, proactive, or we, on the backside, and it's negative, where it affects the family and affects the health of individuals and what have you. So I am really, really excited about the potential for the monies to move forward. And it is neat, as Commissioner Olson says, everything's in place. We have the experts here. I've always said, we don't need to wait for St. Paul or Washington. We have the experts here. Dr. Billen can go against anybody, I'm confident, in the nation on this, and the other experts we have. And so as we continue to move forward and just push on this is an issue that is affecting everyone, from money to the family, to what have you, to marriages. This has to be tackled. And like I say, if you want to speak for another 20-some minutes, I'd love to listen to this, because this is some of the best news that we've had, because it deals with changing people's lives and behavior, and we want them. Each life matters. So I appreciate that. Great news. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Commissioner Stauber. Commissioner Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Stauber, you brought up Dr. Bilden, who's our medical director for St. Louis County. I wanted to tell you a quick story, and I think out of anything, I saw that quite a few of us on this board, with this proposal, will help us in our other jobs significantly. But last Wednesday, I had a meeting with Dr. Bilden, Director Mersch, and the head of public health nursing, Amy Westbrook. And Amy showed up about 10 minutes late. And the reasoning is, on her lunch break, she went for a run from her county building and went straight up the hill. And on 3rd Street, a car pulled over to her. The lady in the car was sobbing, saying the passenger overdosed and was not breathing. Amy did not have a phone on her because she was running, but flagged down someone else. Called 911, and the fire department came and gave rescue Narcan. Literally last Wednesday before our meeting. So this is where it's happening across the board, day by day, north and south, as Commissioner Rukavina says. And, I give us a lot of credit for sticking our necks out 4 years ago, again with partnering with the Center on Drug and Alcohol. And I hope we continue to monitor that and work with them and move forward on this. But again, we need our partners at the state and the feds to win this war. We have what we got up against us, we got a foundation, but we need to really press our colleagues on help on this one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Doyle. Please, Linnea, if you would stay put for just a second, because I do have a couple of requests. One, Director Mersch, in reading recent board letters, it's become very obvious to me that we need to get an update on the ever-changing acronyms within Health and Human Services. Can you, at some point, have one of your staff put together what are the new, because try as I may to keep up with them, they change, and quite frankly, they change without no one ever seeing that. So it would really be helpful to have a little cheat sheet on that if we could. And I would also ask for Administrator Gray, this commission some years ago adopted military policy, which is if you're going to use an acronym in the board letter, you first have to spell it out in the board letter. And I would like to see us return to that on these, because again, it is difficult to keep up with the ever-changing acronyms that are out there. First of all, this board is so diverse and has so much expertise in parts and pieces of this, and I know that they're a tremendous credit to the department as we move forward. And I also know that Commissioner Boyle and Commissioner Stauber and Commissioner Olson are way too humble to ever say how much they add to this conversation. But I want them to know that I really appreciate what our commissioners add to this conversation as well with the departments, because that's an expertise that quite frankly, there's a lot of boards in this state, county commissions in this state that don't enjoy that expertise and don't enjoy that compassion and passion for these types of issues. So thank you all for that, all of the board for that matter, but I'm mentioning those three in particular because of the expertise that they bring to the table. I'm going to, not to talk, this is such a wonderful program, what we're doing. So the comments that I have to make now, after I complimented y'all, now I want you to work a little harder, okay? That's, if you ever get complimented by me, it's usually followed with a request to work a little harder. I think that we need to couple this county initiative with an initiative that is to start to address some of the concerns that I have with both St. Paul and with Washington. And folks, we can't win this battle alone. We can do the things that are being proposed here today, which are truly groundbreaking. We're making huge differences in people's lives. But we need a concerted effort from our federal folks and from our state. And it's not money. It's not always money. I love the fact that we're out after grants and doing these good things. But folks, we need some laws to change in this great nation and in this great state. And without some changes there, we are on the defensive. I want to go on the offensive. And at the next meeting, I am going to ask Chair Commissioner Jewell to appoint a subcommittee of this board. And I've already mentioned the 3 individuals that I would love to see on that subcommittee. But folks, I'm going to bring something up, and I'll get you guys a copy of this, but I'm going to send it down. This is going back a few years, but this is from July 2004 of Governing Magazine. And a much younger Arnold Schwarzenegger's on the cover. I will tell you that a much younger Commissioner Nelson was on the board that initiated some of what I call a good offensive, which is going after the core problem. And in this particular case, the article is titled "Danger in the Ditch." And it was one of the initiatives, and I'll pass this around. It was one of the initiatives that the St. Louis County Board at that time. It was the first time I chaired the county board, and we had a very robust group at that time as well. And what we started going after was methamphetamine, the waste product of methamphetamine, the dangers of that waste product that were infiltrating into our community, and we went after the precursor law. And at the time, in the United States of America, the only state that had a precursor law on methamphetamine was Oklahoma. The very progressive state of Oklahoma, folks, had a precursor law, and Minnesota followed that, and I know one of the people that I talked to early on methamphetamine happens to be on this county board at this point, but Minnesota then passed a precursor law, which is why you don't see Sudafed sitting on pharmaceutical counters. You actually have to go to the pharmacist and you get a box. I will tell you that I knew of this problem firsthand because at the time, we had folks that were cooking meth that would literally walk into a store about 6 miles south of here, grab every box of Sudafed and every box of ephedrine of any kind off the shelf, walk outside, steal every coffee filter, and walk outside and take all of the napkins from the posts near the gas pumps, and they would literally leave. And they were doing that because that was the materials that they needed to go home and cook methamphetamine. We made a difference on methamphetamine. But we made a difference on methamphetamine because we went on the offensive. I will tell you today, and I've been studying, got my nightly reading is somewhere near the Encyclopedia Britannica now on methamphetamine, because I realized that I needed, or not on methamphetamine, on opioids. I realized as the commissioner from this district that I needed to really get up to speed on opioids, what is going on out there, because I'm sorry, sometimes when we as commissioners focus on other areas, we lose track of some of the pieces that I count on y'all for being on top of. But in looking at this, 70% of all opioid prescriptions written in the United States of America are written in the state of Florida, folks. We need help. We need help. 644,000 prescriptions for opioids written every day in the United States of America. Now, I realize how powerful the AMA is. I understand that. But folks, I want to take the battle to them. And I want to embarrass them just a little bit. I know that the doctors in this great nation are taught to treat pain and really make certain that individuals that are feeling pain are given every comfort possible. But folks, 644,000 prescriptions daily? Honestly? We need to, I believe we need to start to look at some of the things that legislatively, whether it's the Interstate Commerce Commission, whether it's some of the other, folks, every day we have prescriptions coming into this county for narcotics that are coming in on delivery trucks. They're coming in FedEx and Speedy and UPS or whoever. Mail. Folks, we have to couple what is a very good defensive, very good treatment program. But what I would like to see out of this board is something akin to what we did on methamphetamine back in 2004, when this board took a really strong stance on that precursor law, and also went to our federal legislators, all of them, by the way, everyone in the state of Minnesota, and went after them and said, we need your help. We don't just need you to throw money at this problem. We need you to legislate changes that will help us in our community combat and treat the problem that is. So with that, and I will get everyone a copy of the methamphetamine article. I thought we did some really good work back then. But the fact of the matter is, the drug of choice changed. And it changed from methamphetamine largely to opioids. And folks, I have no doubt that when we conquer opioids, the drug of choice will be something else. I have no doubt about that. But I believe the responsibility rests on us to challenge our federal and state legislators to not only give us money to deal with the problems that are being created, but give us the tools. And I hope the three of you that I mentioned here, Commissioner Boyle, Olson, and Stauber, the challenge to you is, please tell me what we need to change. What needs to change at the federal level? What can we do as a board? Because I would like to see that occur. I know that I have 2 trips planned to Washington in the next 6 months. One for transportation in June, another one for the Northern Lights Express in September, and I would be proud to carry whatever you came up with that would help us on that level. I'll stop with that. I so much appreciate Director Mersch, what you're doing, what your staff is doing, what the community organizations that we're working with are doing. And Commissioner Rukavina, I can tell you in my experience on the county board, we have never had and this is not a criticism of our former director who had the challenges of trying to change a culture too, but we have never had a director in Health and Human Services that actually beat the pavement between Duluth and Virginia nearly as much as I do, because I see Director Mersch in Virginia on a very, very regular basis, and it is much appreciated because our offices in Virginia and in Ely and in Hibbing are extremely important. And we're seeing not only herself, but her top staff up there on a very regular basis. It's making a difference. That triage unit is making a difference. And those are things that it's an evolutionary process, but I will tell you that Director Mersch, I had no doubt would lead that charge. Thank you. With that, any further comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And thank you, Commissioner Boyle, for affording this board an opportunity to really talk about something that was very, very good news, and also giving me an opportunity to ask for just a little bit more, okay, so that we can try to get ahead of this issue. With that, we do have one other item on the regular agenda of the St. Louis County Board for today, and Commissioner Stauber, item number 2 under your committee.
I'll move it.
Moved by Commissioner Stauber. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Boyle. Administrator Gregg.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. The action for the board is to award to the apparent low bidder our bituminous seal coat project for about, I think, 19 locations. The apparent low bidder is Scott Construction in the amount of approximately $1,159,000. Another favorable bid, I would point out, almost 25% below the engineer's estimate. And these are for projects primarily that are fairly recent and that would benefit and extend the life and the safety and the drivability of roads by this application. So again, the action before the board is to award the contract to the apparent low bidder, Scott Construction, Inc.
Thank you, Administrator Gray. Discussion. Commissioner Rukavina.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm going to bring up again the fact that, we've been talking about project labor agreements on the chip seal, sludge seal, bituminous seal coat, fog seal, whatever you want to call it, for 3 years now. In fact, I think it was last year, early, that we were in a meeting, a couple of us, in Commissioner Stauber's office to discuss this, and yet nothing has happened. And it's, you know, this, again, is another $880,000 that's going to a contractor from quite a ways away, Lake Delton, Wisconsin. And so it just disturbs me that we have a lot of good contractors who could do good work here, and we haven't had this discussion, and we keep talking about having it. We keep talking to our building trades people who are concerned about this and local contractors who are concerned about this, and nothing actually happens. And that disturbs me, because not only do they bring up their own workers who don't live in this county or nearby or pay the taxes, whether they're property taxes or the sales taxes that are going to the transportation issue now, they also bring up their own asphalt and everything else, from what I understand. So, you know, not only are, usually on a job, it's typically about half, maybe Mr. Foldesy can correct me, Director Foldesy, but it's usually about half labor and half materials. And in the case of all of this chip seal and sludge seal, et cetera, even the materials are coming up with the people who don't live here. So our labor money's leaving the county, and so are the, the other necessary items to do this whole sludge seal. We have to address this. I know that other commissioners have promised building trades and local contractors that we're going to look at this, and now we're in year 3 of the transportation sales tax money. We haven't looked at it yet. And so I'm just getting completely disturbed by this, and I can't believe that we can't put a handle on this issue. And I want to know if the other commissioners that are, as strongly labor supportive and keeping good wages and benefits here in our county are as disturbed about this as I am. Because it does disturb me that after 3 years and people talking about, we're going to look at project labor agreements, we've gone nowhere.
Thank you, Commissioner Rukavina. Commissioner Yugovich.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. Just being new, I've been around and had the conversations with some of you about the chip sealing. I have faith in our staff. I respect what they're doing. At the same time, I do listen to the building trades and get an opportunity to speak with them quite often. I would be very interested in sitting down and seeing the data, what we're getting as far as we could find. Maybe we could all find out once and for all and find out what we're getting off a seal coat, chip seal, whatever the case may be, versus having that extra layer of bituminous as we had discussed with the building trades. So that'd be something I would support. I'd like to see that. I think if nothing else, maybe we could get the information to everyone and we could finally put this to rest one way or another and see where the county wants to go from here moving forward. I do think that our staff does an outstanding job, and I know I've talked to Mr. Faldesley on a number of occasions, and he's talked me through some things which actually has been very, very helpful. I appreciate that. I'm trying to learn as I go. So if there's anything I can do to help facilitate some of these meetings so we can get this taken care of, because I know this, in my 4 months on the board now, this has been a very common theme, and I'd like to see us get through it and work together to go forward one way or another.
Thank you, Commissioner Yugovich. Commissioner Stauber.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. Commissioner Rukavina, I'll say it for the second time. You mentioned the word "nothing has happened," end quote. I wrote it down. I'll say it again. I met with Jim Holmgren, who has sold Northland. Jim Holmgren crunched the numbers. The season is too short for him to invest. There's also a gentleman I know who's a business owner, labor supporter, who flew up and met with me, crunched the numbers, brought the numbers to his staff, and said, it would take me 10 years to recoup the money. As a business owner, I can't do the chip seal. Now, The second to the last meeting, if you recall, I requested Chair Jewell to have a workshop on this specific subject. So I resent the fact that you have said, in quotation, nothing has happened. As a chair of transportation, I have brought this forward. I am working with our director. It may not be at the speed for which you want it to be, but please don't be offensive to me and say nothing has happened. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Stauber.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Rukavina, I'm going to say a couple of things on this, and then I will certainly turn back to you. Again, I always end up apologizing for going down memory lane a little bit. But folks, you don't often hear me say aye. This board very seldom hears me say aye. But I will tell you that I brought project labor agreements to this county with the help of then Attorney Mitchell. We were able to craft them and fashion them in such a way that it has been an extremely effective tool in the toolbox of St. Louis County Public Works. But it is but one tool in that toolbox. I will tell you that the only individual left from that era on the labor side is Mike Warner. I have repeatedly spoken with Mike Warner in regards to chip seal and the other applications that we are doing for maintenance of our highways. I will tell you that maintenance of our highways was never, ever part of project labor agreements. Not from day one, not then, and not now. I am enthused to see the amount of roads that we are getting done. I am thrilled to have other folks bidding in our system. Look, we used to get 2 bidders, Aztec and Farner. That was it. And quite frankly, I think they called one another and compared bids before they ever sent them out. I know that's not the way it is, but folks, in the business world, if we don't think they talk, we're confused. They do. We now have 5 active bidders. We have a bid that's nearly 25% under what we had anticipated. This is a good news story. Commissioner Rukavina, I'm not that different from you in that I have the patience of a toddler, okay? And I know you do as well. I think that's a good thing in government, that some of us have that very, very limited amount of patience, because I think we push people to be better, okay? But Commissioner, you're wrong on many of the statements that you're making, on many of the views that you have on this, and I am anxious as well to have us get into that workshop situation and have it fully explained to everyone here on this board, so that we all understand moving forward what we are doing, what we are accomplishing, and how we are doing that in conjunction with the men and women of building trades here in St. Louis County. And Commissioner Stauber, I know the efforts that you have made in the southern half of this county, and you know the efforts that I have made in the northern half of this county to work with contractors to try and get them on this program, to try and have them understand that this is a commitment that this county board and this county engineer and his department have made to not only upgrade our roads, but to do a much better job of maintaining them once they're upgraded. I looked down this list of roads, and I know that many of these roads we did 3 or 4 years ago. We are now going back and seal coating it, not unlike what I do on my own driveway pad, or I do at my own business on a 4 or 5 year rotation, where you go out and crack seal and seal. And the last thing that I happen to know several contractors that supply these folks with their raw materials when they get up here. They could not possibly afford to haul all of their raw materials up here. They are purchasing them, many of them locally. We have contractors that are specifically crushing for these folks so that they have the aggregate available. So there's a lot of partnerships that are going on even in this maintenance side. With that, I will stop. Commissioner Rukavina.
Well, first, Commissioner Stauber, I don't mean to offend you, but the fact of the matter is, we've been talking about this for 3 years. 2015, 2016, 2017. And in fact, earlier when I brought it up with the first project, or the first chip seal bid, I was told, well, this is just $4 million, but now I don't even know what the total is as we move forward with more of this chip seal and sludge seal. And I look, Commissioner Nelson, at least the roads that I know about close to home, and they were all done last year, and now they're being treated this year. And it was the same with Forest Highway 11 and 16. They treated it the year after they did the actual reclaim and overlay. So it's a question of semantics about whether this is maintenance or not. You know, my understanding in the project labor agreement, you were there in St. Louis County, I wasn't at the time, was that our staff was concerned about maintenance being given over to construction companies for the maintenance that we do. But this is more than maintenance. This is laying down a thin seal, then putting a bunch of rocks on top of it, and laying down another thin seal of oil that's paper thin, that I've been told, and maybe I'm wrong, and we can get some answers in our workshop, that most of that oil is coming from down at Flint Hills, or whatever the name of that refinery is, down by Hastings, Minnesota. So, you know, we've got proposals, so I brought up the fact that let's try thin seal. Commissioner Jugovich brought it up, but nobody's coming forward from our director or whomever, or you, Mr. Chair, to say let's try a little thin seal instead of chip seal. And yes, I've talked to the other companies too, as you have, about why don't you buy the equipment, and they have said they crunch the numbers and they can't, the payback isn't there, and they don't know if this is going to be around because other counties aren't doing it. There's a question as to whether chip seal or not is working, and particularly up here in our climate. So I'll leave it with that. But you know, Commissioner Stauber, for you to say that you resent the fact that I'm concerned because it's been 3 years now. It's been 3 years. That's the fact. It's been 3 years, and we've actually not addressed the issue at all as to why we have or don't have PLAs on what I think is much more than maintenance. It's construction work, as far as I'm concerned, and others in the construction industry also see it that way.
Thank you, Commissioner Rukavina. I would remind commissioners at this point that I don't believe that this is a forum where we would choose to be critical of our fellow board members. And Commissioner Rukavina, and I'll remind Commissioner Stauber as well, I don't believe that this forum is the appropriate place for being critical of our fellow board members in any fashion. I think the issue at hand here is the issue at hand, not commissioner performance. Commissioner Stauber.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. I agree with you. Commissioner Rukavina, that I don't resent the fact that you're concerned. I never said that. I resent the fact that you stated that we're not doing anything about it. The concern is on both you and I share the concern. I just said I resent the fact that I don't appreciate that you said nothing was happening. I've been working on it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Stauber. With that,
Mr. Chair, and you know, there's nothing wrong, Mr. Chair, and board members, in us,
Commissioner Rukavina.
thank you, in us having a discussion publicly about what we believe in or feel. We are elected officials. We're supposed to run the county, whether it's Public Works Department, or the Public Health Department, or Land and Minerals Department, or wherever. We have the election certificate. Now, I didn't mean to criticize my good friend Commissioner Stauber, because I like the guy, even though I don't sometimes like, you know, what he says, but I like the guy personally. And he's a good man. Commissioner Stahl, I'm not meaning to criticize, I'm just asking a truthful question, and that is, I've been on this board 3 years, I've heard about this issue for 3 years, and nothing has happened as far as it moving forward, whether we're gonna vote on not doing PLA, on chip seal, et cetera, or whether we're gonna move forward and have a project later. That's what I'm trying to say. With that, Commissioner, I never meant to criticize anybody, and I apologize if I did, and now I will keep my mouth shut for about 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rukavina. Again, that reminder is to all commissioners. We all have a tremendous amount of passion. Let's make certain that we point that passion at the issue and not at each other. Okay? With that said, all those in favor of the resolution that is before us, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, signify by the same sign. Let the record reflect one dissenting vote. With that, I move to adjourn this meeting. Second by Commissioner Yukovich, moved by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Yukovich. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The St. Louis County Board meeting stands adjourned. We will reconvene in 5 minutes as the committee of the whole. Thank you, Commissioner. Administrator Gregg? Yep. All right. Again, calling the committee of the whole to order, I would ask the clerk to please take the roll.
Commissioner Boyle? Here. Commissioner Olson?
Here.
Commissioner Rukavina? Here. Commissioner Stauber?
Here.
Commissioner Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Yukovich?
Present.
And Chair Commissioner Jewell.
Again, for our viewing audience, Commissioner Jewell is out of town as the vice chair and acting chair of the board today. This is the committee of the whole of the St. Louis County Board for this April 25th, 2017 meeting. And we do have the consent agenda before us. Is there someone who would care to move it?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Olson, supported by Commissioner Yukovich. Are there any items on the consent agenda that commissioners would like pulled down for further consideration? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Under the regular agenda, we do have a couple of issues that are before us. And I would ask, I do know that I have a engineer who needs to be at some bid openings and some other work up here. And so I'm going to ask that we move Public Works ahead of the Environment and Natural Resources piece. With that, I would turn to Chair Commissioner Stauber for the Public Works and Transportation Committee.
Okay, thank you, Chair Commissioner Nelson. There are 2 items underneath this committee. The first one is to the award of bids, North St. Louis County Crushing Program, board number 17194. I will move it. Is there support? Support. And it's support by Commissioner Rukavina. Administrator Gay, would you frame this?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. The action before the board is to award the North St. Louis County Crushing Program contract to the apparent low bidder, TNT Aggregates, out of Grand Rapids, in the amount of approximately $326,000. This is in line with our engineer's estimates. And the subsequent resolution that the board will be dealing with today is the South St. Louis County Crushing Program. And these are annual activities to have this material available in our hand. So again, the apparent low bidder is TNT Aggregates out of Grand Rapids.
Thank you, Administrator Gay. Commissioner comments, questions? Jim? Oh, I thought you were pointing.
That was me raising my hand. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Stauber. Just one point that I would like to make. A number of years ago, the crushing contracts used to be under one contract countywide. And this county board, a number of years ago, was the impetus behind breaking up those contracts and making those contracts more regional. And the truth is, we've been doing it ever since. So the input from the county board made a difference in 1, performance, 2, in price. And it's just an example of something that was changed some time ago that is truly still reflected today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson.
Mr. Chair, I neglected to point out that attached to your board letter are the locations of the pits. And again, we'll have 2 contracts, and to Commissioner Nelson's point, some years when it's been geographically prudent, based on our program, we've even had 3 contracts, north, south, and central. In this case, this year, it made more sense to have a north and south contract. And again, the action before the board is, on this particular resolution, is to support the award of the bid to TNT for the North St. Louis County crushing program at the pit locations identified there.
Thank you for that, Administrator. Commissioner comments?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Levine.
Commissioner Nelson might give the new commissioners an update and help refresh my memory. On when we have our land department and our own county pits and private pits, how does that work then? I mean, the private pit, we're still taking the crushed material out of, and the land department, do they charge the Public Works Department? I know you know
Chair,
this stuff.
I think we should ask Director Policy to come forward.
He has
with
to get
that.
going too, so.
There are several things going on here, but they're all, everyone's working together, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Director of Policy, you understand the question?
Yes, Chair, Commissioner Stauber, and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to comment. As far as the crushing program goes, we sit down early on with our maintenance superintendents, and we look at where we need material to put on our roads. I mean, that's the driving factor here. The next piece is we look at the locations of the pits in relation to those needs. And so, as Commissioner Rukavina was pointing out, we have the possibilities of really looking at county-owned fee pits, which basically fall under the purview of the Public Works Department. We have the Land Department tax forfeit pits, and then we also go into private pits as well, and typically there we'll pay royalties. But again, when we look at the full balance of costs to basically get the gravel from the pits to the roads, the transportation costs, the hauling costs are what really drive the economies there. And so we take all those things into account as we're choosing the location of these pits. When they're a land department tax forfeit pit, we do not get charged a royalty, so Public Works is not paying for the base value of that gravel, because it's seen as we are obviously serving the public. These roads are open to all of our local taxpayers here, along with tourists and whatnot. And so over the past, we've basically developed a partnership with Land Department where typically we are developing the pits, so Public Works goes in and actually does all the work of putting the road in, opening the pit, stripping it, getting it all prepared for use. But at the same time, once those pits are open, the Land Department obviously can do their own selling of gravel out of that same pit. It isn't typically exclusive to us in Public Works. Land Department will also come in on our crushing contracts where it makes sense for them to do that, to put up gravel. And again, they kind of enjoy the economies of scale coming in with our contract. And then, of course, all of these pits typically are open to the townships and cities that want to take advantage of our contracts as well. So early on in the process, once we determine where we're going to crush for that year, we send out requests to all the townships and the cities asking them if they want to come on to the contract and how much quantity they'd like to put up in the pits as well. So we have this standardized process has been around for many years and it works very well.
Thank you. Director of Policy, that they're working with the townships and the cities and letting them know where the crushing is going to take place. Would it be safe to say that your staff looks at where quite a bit of the work will be done in relation to where they're going to put the pit for that season? Would that be correct to say?
Chair, Commissioner Stauber, Commissioners, yes. I mean, our superintendents are looking at our gravel road system and saying, okay, we have roads in this area that need regraveling, or as part of our GRIP program, which is a big piece of the puzzle now as well. And so we look at both of those issues, and we look to go into the pits and put up material that minimizes those hauling costs to those roads.
Thank you, Director of Policy. Commissioner Medina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question then. So on county tax forfeited land, when we have pits here, and there's a couple of them, 3 of them actually, there's that 40-40-20 formula for school, county, and township doesn't apply on that.
We do not pay a royalty to the land department for the yardage of gravel used that are going out on the public works roads under our purview.
Thank you.
But again, that's a trade-off. The public works department is expending a lot of dollars opening up these
Yeah, I
pits,
understand.
and that's a cost that's assumed.
Thank you, Director Pauls. Any other questions, staff, commissioners? Okay, I see none. All in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Mr. Chair, I have one more item. It's item number 2, Board Letter 17-195, and it is to the award of bids of South St. Louis County Crushing Program to Voight's Dirt Service LLC in Walker, Minnesota, and I will move it.
Second.
And it's supported by Commissioner Olson. Administrator Gray.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, the action before the board relates to a crushing program contract award to the apparent low bidder who Voight's Dirt Service in the amount of approximately $262,000. You will note that there were a number of townships that took advantage of these locations that are identified in your board letter. But the base contract, again, is the amount of $262,000. Again, the pit locations are identified in the attachment to the board letter, and the outreach is very effective and one that these partners are very appreciative of. So the action before the board is to award the contract to the apparent low bidder, Voight's Dirt Service.
Thank you, Administrator Gray. Commissioners? And I see no other comments or questions. All in favor of said resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Mr. Chair, that's all I have under Public Works.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Stauber. The next item that we have before us, and I'm going to remind Commissioner Ricavina, we need to finish the regular agenda. If you want to add another item, please add it on or back on after we're done with our regular agenda, because I do have, it was reported to me that I have 2 commissioners that need to be at a meeting in Virginia that they scheduled for the noon hour, anticipating a break in this board, and it'll take them about 10 minutes to get there. So Commissioner Ricavina, I would turn to you for the one item, which is the state tax forfeited lease renewal with Mining Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I was hoping to take up the item that got removed from the agenda and offer it without recommendation to move forward to the full board.
Chair Commissioner Ricavina, I will afford you that opportunity after we've completed the one item under central management.
Okay, well, we have now a replacement on board letter 17-193, which originally dealt with the issue of the county joining with LEA, the Laurentian Energy Authority, who asked for a grant of $3.5 million. Now that number has been placed on the agenda today, which I think I got at 7 o'clock last night. But regardless, who will move 17-193?
I would move it, Mr. Chair.
Support. Commissioner Jugovich.
Second.
Second it. And so, Mr. Members, it deals with the lease over near Chisholm, Minnesota with Mining Resources that I believe we kind of gave a 4-month extension so that we could get some questions answered by the land department. So if Administrator Gray would care to frame it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And the action before the board is to forward the appropriate county officials to renew a surface lease on tax forfeited lands with Mining Resources LLC. As Chair Commissioner Rubino noted, that's a facility that came on board in 2012, I believe. And we've had the current lease expired at the end of December 2016, was extended through the end of this month to afford us some dialogue. Both Commissioners Rukavina and Nelson, at the time of the extension, noted several key parts of the lease that we thought would be reinforcing, giving discussions with similar facilities in other counties. And so the short story on the lease is we have a tentative agreement and discussion after significant discussion with Mining Resources for a 5-year term to the lease at an annual base surface lease rental rate of $26,600 annually. That's consistent with the surface lease calculations that the DNR uses for state trust lands where there is mining actively underway. We have agreed at the request of the Mining Resources to reduce that number by approximately $10,000 when the plant is idle. That affords them the opportunity to have a better cash flow management while retaining the surface lease and making that active. Extra attention, and I want to thank the County Attorney's Office for their engagement and support of Director Weber and myself in this negotiation. But other terms that are important were around minimizing liability to the county for possible claims around any past due payments or related to mineral leases, and an acknowledgement that our contractors who work on site will be paid on a timely basis. And those were important items that both Commissioners Rukavina and Nelson talked to me about, and subsequently Commissioner Jukovic as well. So I think it's a solid lease. It's a little bit different than a little more aggressive on our part to protect the interests of the county based on some learnings. I appreciate again the efforts and the support of the Attorney's Office, and think this is a good price, and the acknowledgement that there will be a lower payment when the plant is idle, which is its current state. But it's a 5-year lease at $26,600 a year when it's active.
Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner Rukavina. This is, I want to compliment our land department and our attorney's office. This is outstanding work. This is the type of thing that the taxpayers of this county count on, and I really appreciate the efforts that were made. We learned some lessons from a situation that one of our neighbors was involved in some months back, and with the help of our attorney's office, really positioned St. Louis County and the contractors of St. Louis County in a spot where they are significantly protected on this. And again, Commissioner Rukavina, this is good stuff. Thank you for bringing this forward at this point.
Are there any questions of other members? I just have a few. If Mr. Weber would come up and maybe, I don't know if Attorney Rubin can answer them too, but I want us to think about this as this moves forward, the contract itself, and wouldn't it make more sense to have a higher amount when they're not operating as an incentive to make them operate? Because when they're operating, they're paying, if it's our ore, they're paying us royalties, and we do have ore in the area. So what is there included in the second paragraph down there under the background? St. Louis County is proposing to renew the lease subject to terms intended to minimize liability to the county as a result of potential mechanics lien and other claims associated with leasing tax forfeited land for mining purposes, and intended to ensure contractors, subcontractors, etc. are paid. But how about us? Are there incentives in here when we're giving them, I think, a pretty good deal? Because clarify this for us. I asked you this yesterday or Friday. Because that building, which is a big, huge building sitting on our property, our tax forfeited surface, do they pay real property taxes when they're not operating? Because I don't think they pay any taxes, but I've been wrong before in my life, so tell us.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I spoke with Director Cipla, and he provided me with some tax property codes that indeed they are paying property taxes. That building itself is worth $1,776,000, the plant itself. And according to, again, to Director Cipla, they are paying personal property taxes on those structures.
What is the amount of personal property?
I don't have that number. I can get that number for you.
You should probably have that for the next meeting.
Okay.
And is there an incentive in here to mine our ore, since I think we're giving them a pretty good deal, that we make sure that the ore that we own in that 488 acres is mined, maybe first or whatever, so we can get royalties off of it?
Mr. Chair,
That's where the real tax is for us.
Correct, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So I've kept an ongoing report of the amount of material that has been excavated and the royalties we've received while they were operating. And what they've done is I think there's 4 different tailings basins that they've been working out of, all with different percentage of tax forfeited ownership. One has 100% tax forfeited, one is as little as 7.6%. But they've been excavating material from all of those different basins. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason other than they're maybe testing the quality of the ore. So depending on which basin they're in, we're getting higher or lower royalties. I don't think there's any I don't think there's any reason why they're in one or the other than just trying to determine what's best for the plant itself, et cetera. So again, there's different percentages of iron ore content in each basin, and they've been hitting all of them.
So maybe to Attorney Rubin, is there a way in the contract we could put an incentive there that the price would go up or down according to whether they're using our tax forfeited ore that's at 100% ownership or 7% or 15%, that whole formula that they had? Is there a way we could work that in here?
Chair, Commissioner Rukavina, there's an incentive because they're paying $18,000 and not making a nickel, they're not mining. So there's an incentive for them to mine and then recoup some of their costs, number one. Number two, you don't want to get into the idea of trying to create something more complicated than what we have. I think we have a very good contract right now that Commissioner Weber worked out, Director Weber worked out, Land Commissioner Weber, along with Mr. Tisdale in our office, Tim Tisdale. So I don't think you want to tamper with what I think we have a very good agreement right now. So if you want, we can look at it further, but I think there's an incentive, because if they're not mining, they're just kicking out that money every month to us. That's the incentive.
For $18,620 a year.
Right.
Which is how much a month? 1,600, whatever. Okay, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Rukavina. The operation's been down for 2 years now, I believe, in that area. Has there been any indication that they have some sort of plan moving forward to restart this operation? Otherwise, I like the agreement. I'm just curious, has anybody heard anything about bringing this operation back to life?
Mr. Chair, I've had several conversations with the plant manager out there, and just I think the fact that they've been very much are interested in us renewing the lease. I think they're anticipating a startup. They haven't given us a date. Again, they're looking at the global market for iron ore, but the fact that they're maintaining that plant site and they're interested in renewing the lease, I think that's just a good indication that that plant will be up and running. But I cannot give you a time frame. I haven't received a time frame.
And that material goes to Mesabi Nugget, correct? That's where it was going?
Yes, that's where it was going. Of course, Mesabi Nugget is not operational.
Right, so...
But I think that Steel Dynamics, which owns this, has a plant, or part ownership in a plant down in Indiana, so that concentrate could be mined and then shipped out of our county at the same tax rate as when it stays here, and brings a lot more economic development, but that's a state issue. Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Chair, it should be pointed out that this plant is not related to Magnetation's operations, which are throughout the Iron Range. This plant is solely owned by Steel Dynamics, and it also should be noted that Steel Dynamics did directly ship concentrate out of the Duluth port to Steel Dynamics already. Running it through the nugget plant was a way that they could save a lot of freight, but even without the nugget plant, they were still shipping concentrate directly from the Chisholm facility directly to the Port of Duluth by a truck. And at one time, they were running nearly 50 truckloads a day down to the port directly in the form of concentrate. So I don't believe it's absolutely reliant on the operation of the nugget plant. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Rukavina, I'm going to, at this point, because we have our regular agenda in front of us, I would like to complete it, given the fact that I have a couple of commissioners who may have to leave. So with respect, I will turn back to you as soon as Commissioner Jugovic has concluded his bargaining unit for the jail and 911. Chair of Central Management and Intergovernmental, Commissioner Jugovic.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. Before you, we have letter 17-196. It's the 9/11, jail 9/11 bargaining agreement from 2017 to 2019. It's just a resolution approving a contract for this bargaining unit. Mr. Gray, would you bring this, please?
Well,
Oh, sorry, I'll move. Oh, sorry.
Support. Moved as
Thank you, Chair Jugovic. The action before the board is to approve the 27 through 2019 jail 911 contract that we've reached a tentative agreement on. The jail 911 unit has approximately 110 employees. The terms of the agreement are substantially the same as the other bargain units that have been brought to the board. I believe there are 7 so far to date that we've brought to the board. The 2%, 2.5%, 2.5% annual range adjustment, the increase in the employee contributions to the single care health premiums, and so I think that's a very similar pattern, and we're pleased to bring it to the board.
Any questions? None?
Your committee.
Yes, okay. All in favor signify by sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I'll turn it back over to you, Commissioner, Chair Nelson.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Jugovic, Central Management and Intergovernmental. Commissioner Rukavina, I will turn back to you. I understand that you have another resolution that you would like to bring forward that was not on the amended agenda. Please, Commissioner Rukavina.
Mr. Chair, I would like to move what was on our agenda until Friday afternoon at approximately 1:12 p.m. So I'll move it as, I guess, resolution number 17-197. It's in your packet as 17-193. So I will move it as 17-197 regarding county board endorsing a plan to keep the biomass production going at Laurentian Energy Authority, as Mr. Tackle explained, how beneficial it is to him. So
I'll second for discussion.
Second.
Okay. Right. Mr. Chair, can I, Chair Commissioner Rukavina, point of order on this? I want to make certain that the letter or the number you're designating it at does not conflict with something else that's already in draft form or something else that is coming. Administrator Gray, is the 17-193 or 197 an appropriate number to put to this resolution?
Mr. Chair, I don't know if it is or not, but we will assign the appropriate number. The clerk will upon the action of the board. So if there is an approved resolution, it will be assigned a number in sequence with the clerk's.
So the resolution has been moved, and perhaps
Mr. Chair, without recommendation.
Okay, moved without recommendation. It has been supported. This is in your committee, Commissioner Rukavina. I just want to make sure that I have, you moved it with the number assigned, and I would ask that we not assign it a number if we could at this point. Because I don't know that 17-197 is an appropriate number.
Well, I don't see, 196 is the last number on the agenda, so that's why I just added it, because it would be 197 and move forward if it passes without recommendation. So, I don't know what the problem would be, but, you know, I'm wondering why this got pulled off, particularly as late as it did on Friday, and I just wanted, there were a number of items contained in the board letter and resolution that needed further clarity. So, you know, I think the resolution is pretty simple. If you turn to the resolution, Commissioners, whereas the Laurentian Energy Authority is managing partner of a joint venture between Hibbing and Virginia to use biomass for both cities, I mean, that's pretty simple there and understandable. Whereas the Laurentian Energy Authority, St. Louis County, and area loggers wish to develop a long-term market for biomass, which they're currently doing for Xcel Energy, which has the potential of ending, where the biomass facilities provide important outlets for lower valued wood products, and the use of these products improve forest health and productivity and reduce the risk of wildfire. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Whereas the Laurentian Energy Authority will submit an application for $3.5 million to continue to use biomass at Hibbing in Virginia. And then be it resolved that the St. Louis County Board endorses the Laurentian Energy proposal to promote biomass production and use in the region and supports full funding for LEA's application to the LCCMR. Now, I don't see where any of this is disturbing or should be. We just had a number of resolutions that we supported today that were doing cooperatively. Under the Committee of the Whole, number 4 is a cooperative agreement with Kenosha and Carleton County. Number 6, we're having our auditor work as the fiscal agent for the Small Regional Park Trails and Commission's operating grants, which is a state created facility. Number 1 on the Committee of the Whole consent agenda is a contract with General Security Services. So we do this all the time, including what Linnea Mersch talked about today, with a number of other entities that we work with, try to get grants. And, you know, members, I don't know where Hibbing's stand is. We heard Mr. Our counselor from Virginia talk about it today, that they're concerned about it. I don't know where their concern is. I don't know where Hibbing is on this, but a short history of what's happened recently. You know, 3 weeks ago or so, the rumors started going around that Virginia and Hibbing, under the Laurentian Energy Authority, were considering getting out of the biomass business because Xcel doesn't want to pay the contract anymore for the, I believe it was 30 megawatts that they get, that they're buying from Hibbing in Virginia. Maybe it's 35. And boy, there was all kinds of concern that broke loose, including you, Administrator Gray, sending emails, Assistant Director Myers, and I can't remember if Director Weber sent them or not, but all of a sudden it's, wow, what are we going to do? These loggers clean up our forest. It's a good program. So what Leah came up with and their lobbyist is, let's go to the LCCMR and get a grant, which all kinds of people go there to get grants to continue to burn biomass should Hibbing and Virginia, Xcel terminate the contract with Hibbing and Virginia. I don't understand what the concern is. I don't know where in your email, Administrator Gray, where there's a number of items in the board letter that need further clarity. And really, it really disturbs me, Administrator Gray, that I wasn't talked to about this when I am supposedly, allegedly, the chair of this committee, number 1, and number 2, that you've decided that we will bring this, who's we, to the board when and if appropriate. You know, we're the people with the election certificate. And to not even get talked to about this program, which I think is very beneficial to St. Louis County and to the environment and everything else. They're not buying coal, they're burning wood. You heard Mr. Takala talk about using that wood ash, which is great for farming. So what's the concern? Maybe you can explain to me what your email is all about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, this was originally drafted and for presentation to the board. It was not publicly noticed. It was not part of our formal agenda that occurs on Friday. The very short story, and I'll look to Director Weber to talk to this, Land Commissioner Weber, a little bit more. But as we looked at it, there was different views on whether we were the applicant, or as this resolution is proposed in draft form at this point in time, endorsing the Laurentian Energies Authority's proposal to seek funding from the LCCMR. The LCCMR is the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. We don't have a great handle. If we're the applicant, we don't have a good handle on what the money would be for, how the amount was arrived at. This was done originally under the guise of us being a supportive public entity. Since that time, even perhaps more significantly, we've heard from municipalities that are directly impacted by this, as well as from the Timber Producers Association, the Loggers Association, and others in the industry who had some concerns. The legislation that Commissioner Rukavina referred to was introduced several weeks ago and does not appear to be in the bills today. And just the lack of understanding about what our role is, the county's role, how we would benefit, how the money would be used, what the purpose is, in my mind said it wasn't ready for prime time. The commissioners, as is being done now, can bring, as an elected official and member of the board, can bring a resolution anytime. But the initial board agendas, in particular, the committees of the whole, are the charge of administration. And so as I looked at it, we weren't ready for, as they say, prime time. So that's the short story. Director Weber can maybe talk a little bit of the conversation about that.
Hold on a second, Administrator Ray, because now I've got the chair finally, and I'm going to the same meeting that the other two commissioners went to. You could wait, but you know, you pulled this off on Friday afternoon, and you're talking about the public not being notified. We did not get the resolution we just passed for mining resources until 7:53 last night. You sent the email out. So, public notification, this was on the agenda back on Friday, and I don't know, I'm going to ask, maybe Commissioner Yugovich knows more than me, but is Hibbing opposed to this? I don't know. Before you answer that, let me just put up front that timber producers, I initially passed this legislation at the legislature, and neither the timber producers at the time or the or Scott Dean's group, the Associated Contract Loggers, supported it. Now all of a sudden, they're all concerned about it not being around, that's what we're trying to solve here. Excel was subsidizing the loggers under the state mandate that they were able to keep storing casks, spent nuclear waste at the Prairie Island nuclear facility. That's why this came about. And Virginia and Hibbing got together and were lucky enough to get a remaining 30 or 35 megawatts, whatever that number is. So it's not hard to understand why they're going to ask for $3.5 million, because Excel was paying, I think, help me out, the two of you if you could, I think about $116 a kilowatt for that power. And now they're trying to get out of the agreements because they've had 11 years of this experience. Hibbing brought it forward, Mr. Garrity over there, nervous that if we didn't make the 75% average over the 20 years of that contract with Excel, that Virginia and Hibbing had to pay a $10 million penalty. That's why this came about. It's moving forward. We're trying to keep going to use biomass. I would have never even talked to you guys about this if it wasn't you and the land department leading the charge to try to keep biomass going. That's what this does. So let's move it forward. We can have the discussion at the board meeting if there's concerns next week, but there is a timeline here. Commissioners Stauber, Jugovich, Nelson, a timeline that if we don't apply by May 15th to the LCCMR, it's the cutoff date, we will not be able to be considered for next session's grants. And that's what we were trying to do. I would have never brought this forward, but you guys are the ones that were concerned about the loggers not cleaning up our 900,000 acres of land. So, all of a sudden, there's a big concern. Commissioner Duke.
Thank you, Chair Rukavina. I did have an opportunity to speak briefly with Mayor Kanata. I believe that he was waiting to see how things played out. I don't want to speak for the mayor. I have not had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Garrity, but he did tell me that Hibbing is losing some customers going to natural gas and so on and so forth. That seems to be the trend. But I would definitely invite you to give the mayor a call, speak to him yourself. But this is time sensitive, as you said. I know there was some questions. It would be nice to have everyone on board here right now. We don't have that. But this is something that we talked about. I wasn't sure if St. Louis County should be leading the charge, and we spoke about it, and you said that we would only be used as the applicant, correct?
Yes, Commissioner Jugovich, that is correct. And I'm being told, and that can be clarified before the next meeting, that the county doesn't have to do anything on this. Leah is going to approach, present. If they don't get the grant, we don't get $3.5 million to work with over the next 2 years. If they do, it'll be wonderful to continue biomass and see what Virginia and Hibbing can continue to do at their publicly owned power plants to help our loggers in the area, and to help our forests, almost 900,000 acres, to keep them from falling apart, wildfires, etc. So I don't understand the concern. I think we should move it forward without recommendation, get the questions answered to make sure that the county is not going to have any obligation on this other than to help being the applicant, because it's our property that we're asking for. It's is it 880,000 acres, Mr. Weber, that we own and that we log on, and that is the concern. Commissioner Jugovich and then Nelson.
Thank you, Chair. As far as this played out, did you speak with the organizations, and this is what who spearheaded it?
Mr. Commissioner, this was submitted by, I believe, Gary Sertvenik about 2 weeks ago, and put together with the county looking at it, and the county putting the resolution together, and with the understanding that we have nothing to do with this as far as doing the work. That work is going to be done by the Laurentian Energy Authority, and that, all we are is a player to help with keep our property and that from wildfires and using our resources that these loggers have been using in feeding those two power plants. So that's why this was put together. I wouldn't have moved it forward, but the county was concerned about the calls they got from Mr. Dane, and like I said, the timber producers. I've never had a call from Mr. Brandt about it, so I don't know what their concern is, but that's where it stands. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner Rukavina. Commissioner, I have to tell you that over the past 24 hours, I've spent probably 10 of those on this issue. And I will tell you with a great degree of certainty that Mayor Cuffey has expressed to me that he does not want me to support this here. And the reason that he doesn't is because they have not had an opportunity to go through all of this, any legal ramifications, what the legal status of LEA is, whether that is a joint powers or a 501(c), and all of those things are being looked at this point. My job here is to represent the constituents I serve. In this case, the greatest impact that this has is in the city of Virginia, and I have not only the mayor of the city of Virginia, but also the counselor who is the liaison to the Public Works facility from the Virginia City Council, Councilor Baraboo, both asking me not to act on this today. Commissioner, I know I'm aware of legislation that has been put in place in St. Paul. I'm also aware that at least a couple of legislative pieces were rejected and turned down, trying to extend the time for Laurentian Energy and trying to do other things. I described this as an octopus with about 16 tentacles, and the truth is, Scott Dane has talked to me. I know the ACLT opposes this. I have also heard, and we have a representative here, so I'm certainly not going to speak for him, but I've also heard from others that they are opposed to this at this point. Commissioner, I wish I knew all of the nuances of this. I've been trying to get up to speed on it, but this is something that we do have time. We've got 2 board meetings between now and when the application deadline is. And if this becomes soup, which I like to call it, where it should be in front of the board and have the support of the entities that are out there. LEA has not met yet on this. LEA meets tonight at 5 o'clock in Hibbing. So the Laurentian Energy Authority hasn't officially approached St. Louis County on this and either, and yet it shows up in front of us that we're somehow going to be a partner with them. And yet they don't meet till 5 o'clock tonight. And Commissioner, and I'm going to refer to your formal role as representative, this was great work back then to do this. I know you didn't predict the fact that spruce budworm was going to hit our county like a sledgehammer, but the truth is right now that spruce and balsam component of our forests is truly not marketable without this. So the biomass is tremendously important to us. I wish and hope that all of the players can somehow come together. I would like to see not the county applying for this LCCMR grant for one reason. The LCCMR is gambling revenues, of course. It's in the trust of that Legislative Citizen Commission. And Commissioner, as you know, the Mesaba Trail, the completion of the Mesaba Trail, has been asked by Senator Tomasoni to submit what would it cost us in total to complete that trail. That's going to be a resolution that, quite frankly, says St. Louis and Lake County Rail Authority application to the LCCMR, which is going to be for in excess of $7 million. I don't want necessarily, I have no problem with supporting an application there, but I don't necessarily want a competing grant application to have the label of St. Louis County on it. That's a concern that I personally have, because I understand that this is a finite resource and there's X amount of dollars there. The very same individual who's looking at helping the LEA apply for this is also working for the Rail Authority and applying for the other grant. He's extremely successful. But my concern is, all of a sudden I have a $7 million ask here and a $3.5 million ask over here. Am I going to lose $3.5 million off of my other grant application as a result of this one? So from a taxpayer perspective or a St. Louis County perspective, that's my concern. But the real reason that I will not support this today in any way is the fact that my community that I represent has asked me not to. And that is truly the elected officials that, Commissioner Rukavina, I rely on so much, because keeping track of a district as large as mine or as large as yours without the help of your local elected officials is nearly impossible. So I have to rely on them. I have to rely on the expertise they bring to the table. And again, 2 members that are both in significant positions in the city of Virginia that have significant roles pertaining to this have asked me not to. So I will not be supporting it for that reason.
Mr. Chair, having been on the LCCMR probably for, I think, 12 or 14 years, I can tell you that many cities and many counties put in multiple grants. So your concern there, I think, is you shouldn't be concerned. Let me put it that way. Number 2, what are the loggers in the city of Virginia, if they want to keep burning biomass, why would they be against us getting money to keep burning biomass? I don't understand what's going on in Virginia. why they would oppose this. But if we move it without recommendation, we can get those answers, because I don't know if we can meet that deadline, number one, and number two, perhaps this is the last time we're gonna see it, because people are just gonna get fed up and say, the heck with it. And then there'll be no biomass at all. I don't understand the concern. I don't understand. I had loggers in my office years ago when this was first being proposed, by the way, as a joint powers board.
Chair Commissioner Rukavina, point of order, you do have some citizen input here, so I suggest you get to that.
Well, yeah, I didn't know he was here for that.
Yeah.
If there is a citizen that wishes to speak, fine, and if Mr. Weber wants to speak, but I'm confused about this whole thing. This whole issue was brought forth by the county land department and the county administrator. That's why it's there, Commissioner Nelson. It wasn't my initiative. I got calls from one of the 10 loggers who was concerned about not burning biomass anymore, and that's when I started to do my research on what was going on and finding out that Excel was trying to pull out of the Benson Agreement and the LEA Agreement and not use our biofuels anymore. This is an attempt to keep using biofuels, which need to be subsidized, and it's as simple as that. Yes, if the gentleman would come forward and identify himself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Ray Higgins. I work for the Minnesota Timber Producers Association, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. And I have a couple of the answers for you, Chair Rukavina, that you've asked. First of all, I think everyone's acting in good faith here, and we all have the best interests of the logging community at heart, and we also have the interest of managing the forest at heart. By the way, Minnesota Timber Producers Association is a trade association that represents loggers, truckers, sawmills, allied businesses in our state. It's a statewide organization. We do represent more than half of those 10 that supply Laurentian Energy. Chair Rukavina, you're correct in the history of my understanding of the history of how the biomass came to be, the biomass mandate. And you're correct, I believe. I wasn't working for the association at the time, but I don't believe TPA was supportive at that time. I believe you're correct about that. But now that it's a fact, several of our members have made investments in equipment and people based on the fact that the mandate would go on for another 9 years. It's due to expire in 2026. So while maybe we didn't come running with open arms to embrace the biomass mandate when it was enacted 1993, I believe. Now they're in it and have made business decisions based on the fact that the mandate would expire in 2026. So that's why maybe now we're a lot more supportive in response to what our members want us to do, as opposed to what may have happened back when the mandate originated. You asked about the timing Friday of why this was removed. I became aware of it, we in our office became aware of it on Thursday. Didn't know anything, or the proposal to support a grant, this whole topic. I called Land Commissioner Weber and said, hey, what's going on? I'm getting some concern from my guys. And we talked through it. What our concern is the message it sends to the legislature, and just a little bit of a background of what's been going on at the legislature. There was a bill that included language to remove the biomass mandate. At the House Ways and Means Committee level, that language was removed. That would have eliminated the mandate this year. So right now, as we stand here at noon, 12:08 on Tuesday the 25th, there's no legislation at the legislature that would remove the mandate, and we're fine. However, there are conference committees meeting, there are other, a lot can happen. I don't have to tell Chair Rukavina that a lot can happen between now and the scheduled adjournment on May 22nd, and then if there's a special session and beyond. But as of right now, this mandate has 9 years to run. And some of the arguments in folks making that want to remove the mandate are saying, we've taken care of the loggers. They'll be made whole. Because what happens here is when this market goes away, as Chair Rukavina has mentioned, our guys lose a significant amount of their business. For some, it's all of their business. That's all they do is biomass. For others, even if it's a 30% of the business of their production, that could be enough to make them not profitable and have to make a difficult business decision. So what they're saying is, at the legislature, hey, we're taking care of the loggers, they're going to be fine with all this. And what our concern is that by St. Louis County supporting this or moving this forward and this grant money becomes available, it would send a message that we're fine with it, and we're not. The loggers that support, that feed that mill that we represent are all against having the mandate removed. Now, and I've had conversations with others in the room, Commissioner or Chair Rukavina is correct that there are deadlines here. May 15th is the grant application deadline, and so there might be a time when, God, we wish this was a missed opportunity. But for now, our position is, we'd like to see how the legislative session plays out, hope that the mandate stays in effect, as it should for 9 years. I mean, our position is a deal is a deal. At the time, Representative Rukavina and others made this deal with the state of Minnesota. Did concern, as he said, with nuclear waste at Xcel Energy and the Prairie Island facility, and I believe Monticello as well in the Mississippi River, and burning renewable sources or using renewable sources to generate energy, including biomass, was part of that deal to mitigate the concerns over storing nuclear energy. And our position now is a deal is a deal. We would like the legislature in the state of Minnesota to follow through with that deal and want to make sure that they don't get messages from us, from anyone, that the logging community is on board with this. So those are our concerns.
Any questions of Mr. Higgins? Because Mr. Higgins, I still am puzzled as to why applying for an LCCMR grant to keep your loggers happy makes you concerned. Number one. Number two, yes, the Minnesota Timber Producers Association did not support this. I know that because they were in my office. Mr. Dane's members, which, by the way, I always described it at the legislature this way. The Minnesota Timber Producers Association are management, and the associated contract loggers are labor. Because you represent a lot of big boys, and when Ainsworth, as an example, shut down, you didn't come to the county board or to the legislature and worry about the loggers and who they were going to sell to, because they're one of your big members. I just don't understand the concern here, moving this forward and getting it done before that timeline's gone, because this opportunity may not even be there for us next week at the board meeting, or in a couple of weeks if we don't move it forward now. That's what I'm concerned about. And I don't understand how cities concerned about keeping biomass going are worried about this. And Xcel, Mr. Higgins, and you know this, and for you members, they got a lot of power. And a lot of their state senators and state representatives are saying, our customers are paying this larger amount, and we're not going to do this anymore. We want to get out of it. And I think Xcel and their state senators and representatives have enough power to get out of this. Now, my understanding is it might move forward. It might be a great deal for both Hibbing and Virginia PUC, and this addresses the loggers continuing to feed those two facilities for whether it's for heat or whatever. So that's where we're at, members, with this. This all started, I might add, in ending, because Virginia and Hibbing, but Virginia in my case, because I was their state representative, as I represented Virginia and Evelyn, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Nelson, for 26 years. It all started because Minnesota Power was managing, if you can believe that, Commissioner Stauber, the Virginia power plant. And Minnesota Power, Target usually doesn't have Walmart run their stores, but that's what was happening in Virginia. Minnesota Power is running the Virginia PUC, and I don't know what was going on in Hibbing. And Minnesota Power said, well, you guys got to get rid of this central heating system. The largest central heating system in the world is in Virginia, Minnesota. There's, their excess steam is used to heat most of the town. And so they asked me to put in a bill that would allow most of the steam heat way up on north side, down on south side, to be cut off. And people could buy a furnace, natural gas, fuel oil, whatever, and special legislation was needed to put that under property taxes like for a 10-year period to pay off that furnace. I passed the legislation. All hell broke loose in Virginia. The city council backed down. They got their own manager back. Minnesota Power left. And a number of people, many, many old-timers at the time, my father and mother included, went to the council, raised hell, and said, we want to keep our steam heat. We don't want to get a furnace. So we said, how can we save that? Magically, the 35 megawatts appeared, Mr. Higgins, and that's how we saved like 80-some jobs in Virginia, and I don't know how many in Hibbing burning biofuels. So that's where we're at. That's all we're trying to do is save this and save the loggers and help them, some of whom are not in your organization. And that's what we're trying to do here. So members, let's move it forward without recommendation, have the discussion next week, meet the deadline, and if we don't get the grant, we don't get the grant, and we don't have to do any, waste our power, our workers' power to doing this and applying for this, like we heard from Ms. Mersch, like we heard from Mr. Foldesy on other cooperative grants. So with that, Commissioner Jugovich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know you have mentioned numerous occasions there's time restraints. I just don't know if we wouldn't be better off pulling this back and put it on another agenda, because I don't know if how this plays out today.
Well, if it plays out going down, that's fine, or goes down, that's fine. I don't know why it was pulled off the agenda so we couldn't have a discussion on it before everybody left for the same meeting I'm going to, by the way. But, so maybe people could get out of here so they didn't have to take a vote. But let's vote on it. Any other questions, Commissioner Nelson?
Mr. Chair, or Chair Commissioner Rukavina, you have my word that if this comes back with the support of the city that I represent, and that's the only support I'll need, is the support of the city that I represent, that I will move this resolution at a future board meeting. I'm even willing to suspend the rules to hear it. But there's a lot of work to be done, and I tend to agree with Mr. Higgins, who I incorrectly called a former weatherman. He's much smarter than that. He was a former sports commentator. But I agree that much of this move is to try and influence where that legislation is, and I'm concerned about it. I tend to think, I'm one of these people that when you make a deal with me, that deal is a deal. And I tend to think that our legislature is going to hold XL to a deal is a deal. Now today, and look, I've spent a lot of time on this, today, natural gas is cheap. But 5 years ago, natural gas wasn't cheap. And the vacillation in energy costs, this board has seen that in a number of different, our public works department. The savings that we're accruing to purchase equipment is a direct result of what is today cheap fuel costs, okay? But the reality is, and this is my opinion on the reality, I guess, is that when we get it, when Bakken gets an oil pipeline that goes to the Gulf of Mexico, we should all expect that energy costs are going to rise dramatically, because that will give them a export opportunity that they currently don't have with that supply, at least at a price point that is very advantageous. So I want to keep biomass being burned there. You heard from one of our area's real farmers, Jim Tackla, how important it is to him for his crops, for crop management. But today's not the time.
Well, Mr. Chair, you have my word that...
Mr. Chair, do I still have the floor?
Well, I think I'm the chair, but go ahead. I thought you were done talking.
I apologize. Sometimes I pause in between, and people assume that I'm concluded, but I also promise to never interrupt you, Mr. Chair. But I think it's really...
You did today a couple of times, I might point out.
As the chair, I did,
Yes,
Commissioner Rukavina, and only to make certain that we ran a meeting in the fashion that I believe is the history of the St. Louis County Board. And I truly appreciate the fact that you respected that role. Thank you for that. But with that said, the timing of it isn't today, and I will tell you that Commissioner Olson and Commissioner Boyle, they were looking to the range commissioners to lead this discussion. So the fact that they're not here to vote on it, I'm certain that they were looking to Commissioner Yugovich, myself, and you to find out where this was going to go. With that said, I'll support it as soon as my city's on board, and I know there's a lot of work to be done to get them on board, but I think they deserve that. It's their utility. And Mr. Chair, you would not have supported it years ago if the city would have been against it. You wouldn't have supported this legislation. So I hope you understand the position that I currently sit in. You supported this legislation. You found a cure for the city because the city wanted one. In this case, the city is saying, don't mess with a deal's a deal. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson, and I understand that, but I can't seem to get the point across, which often happens here, that this isn't going to hurt anything moving forward. The decision at the legislature on whether Excel continues with Hibbing and Virginia and Leah is not going to be based on this grant application. And you have my word that if this moves forward and we don't have the support of Virginia or Hibbing, and both of them, I'll pull it off. I'll pull it off the board agenda. But there is a timeline here, and I'm concerned that we're not going to make it. And so I'm just going to keep it on the table. I'm very concerned, though, that Administrator Gray, without contacting me, and puts in his email, will bring this up if and when the board, if it's appropriate. Well, I think it's appropriate, and I have an election certificate, and you don't. And that really burns me. That really does burn me. Commissioner Jugovich.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner Rukavina. Just for clarification, looking at the big picture, if this passes, it'll move on. But if it were not to pass, whether it be a tie, whether it lose, obviously, if it's not going to pass, what's the next step? Do we miss out on moving this forward at another meeting? Does this go on? What would be the play? Are we better off pulling this back to fight another day, or are we just going to move forward? And if it were not to pass, what happens?
Commissioner Jugovich, if it doesn't pass today, hopefully it would be on the next committee of the whole. But then it has to be to the board, and maybe there needs special resolution, or excuse me, a proposal by one of the two of you to get the full support of the board and to put it back on the board agenda, to try to meet that deadline. I'm just trying to meet a deadline and have a conversation. That's why I wanted it on the agenda today, to have the conversation about it, to get Virginia and Hibbing PUCs and Leah involved in this, because they're the ones that not only put this together, but were asked to put it together by the county land department and the administrator, who were concerned that we weren't going to burn biomass anymore. That the decision, Mr. Higgins, by the way, I knew you looked familiar. I couldn't remember that you were. Good job on that. But anyway, that's why we're bringing it up today. I'm afraid we don't meet the deadline, and I'm only trying to help the loggers to keep burning a fuel source that everybody else is ignoring. Commissioner Nelson, you are 100% right. I spent Friday, and I shouldn't have because it hurt, cutting all of that damn balsam coming into my yard because I didn't want to look like a bum. When you come into my yard, here's balsam trees all fallen over with that moss growing on it, and it happened overnight like that in 3 years. And so that's what we're trying to solve here, along with keeping those loggers working. Commissioner Stauber, you've been so patient. I'll call on you, but Jugovich keeps raising his hand, and he's got Hibbing, which started this whole conversation because they were worried they couldn't meet the 75% mandate and would have a $10 million plan.
Chair Rukavina, I appreciate it, but I would like to speak, but he's got, continue the conversation. I'll allow him to speak.
You want a bad cleanup?
Yep.
Okay, Commissioner Jugovich.
And this is why I think everyone here would understand We've heard from Virginia how important Hibbing's view on this is. Again, I would like to get clarification, whether it's through the mayor and/or Mr. Garrity, whatever the case may be, but I would like to hear a definitive answer from the city of Hibbing, being the other player in the biomass. I would definitely like to hear from them, but I supported this for discussion. I feel your passion for this. I just want to see where my community is. Obviously, we've heard from Virginia. We need to do something, but at the same time, are we going to go through this right now and have it not pass and come back with another angle, or can we pull it back and run it down with the information that we need from the city of Hibbing to go along with Virginia? And that would probably be the heaviest hitters, batting cleanup, so to speak, since we're talking baseball, that we can all kind of sink our teeth into and have those two entities.
Members, let's just put this on the table. I'll ask all four of us. Is there anyone here who opposes the concept of the loggers continuing to clean up our waste wood and burn it as biofuels in Hibbing and Virginia? Is there anyone that opposes that idea? No? Nobody. That's what this is trying to do, to keep that continued, because we're not going to be able to control what happens at the legislature. And I can tell you, people like Representative Garofalo, anytime we kind of went after Excel and their customers' money up here, that he was always leading the charge to stop that. That's what's happening down there. They're saying, enough, it's really expensive. You've been doing it for 11 years. As Mr. Higgins pointed out, the contract ends in 2026. So we've had enough. Let's end it. We'll pay you guys off. We'll take care of loggers. We'll do this. It doesn't solve the problem of us continuing to clean our forests. That's what I'm trying to do here. Members, fine. I want to vote on this. And if it goes down 3-1, I don't care, because I've been right before and lost. So it doesn't make any difference to me. But if you, Commissioner Jugovich and Commissioner Nelson, want me to pull this, and maybe you're never going to see it again, then I'll pull it. I've been sticking up for the loggers here, and when the loggers come to me now, if this doesn't happen, and the biofuel subsidy by Excel doesn't continue, and we don't have any money to keep charging, the only people who are going to pay this are the customers in Virginia and Hibbing. If you want to continue to burn biofuels, it's going to be expensive, because Excel isn't there paying the bill. That's why we were going after the $3.5 million. But I'll pull it. When the loggers call you, if this doesn't continue, you guys take the heat, because I'm trying to help the loggers here and keep something going that I think is great for our forests, and I'm still kind of miffed about it being pulled off in the first place. Commissioner Nelson, last word. I'll pull it. I'll pull it. With your promise that if next week we need to move forward and you've got your answers, we get the suspension of the rules and put it on the board meeting. Fine with me. You kind of alluded to that, so.
Commissioner Rukavina, if you ask anyone in this county what my word is, you will get a very consistent answer.
What your what is?
What my word is, you will get a very consistent answer. If I give somebody my word, that is it. But I do need to point out, because Commissioner Rukavina, you are absolutely tremendous at advocating for things. Unfortunately,
obviously not.
Unfortunately, some places in your arguments, some of the facts about it don't exactly line up with the argument that you're making. And I would tell you that as you're fighting for the loggers, I want to reemphasize consistently, the logging community, both of their representatives have come to me and not been in favor of this. Now, there may be individual loggers, Mr. Chair, but I will tell you that the organizations that represent them have come to me and said that they're not in favor of it. I would also like to point out, because Administrator Gray has taken some of the heat on the pulling of this, I want to stress one thing. Administrator Gray actually drove all the way out to NERC to talk to me as the acting chair of this board. And my advice to him as the acting chair was that we need some more time for, one, our department, for the two communities to flesh this out a lot more, and that it would probably be more appropriate if it waited 1 week to come back, if they can get it done in that time frame. So if there's blame to be placed, please don't place it on our administrator, because I will tell you, as the acting chair, I absolutely told him that where my community was, because I had already heard from the mayor and from Councilor Baraboo, and I thought that it was more appropriate that we have another week to work on this and bring back something that may not even resemble what you see on the paper today. And that's just my experience speaking, that I think that when we have a resolution that is ready for this board, it is much more apt to pass. And right now, I didn't feel this one was ready. So your concern about Administrator Gray's role in this, I would tell you very plainly, blame me for what I advised him on and asked him to delay it 1 week. I did not talk to him about pulling it off for good. I talked about the fact that it was not time appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Commissioner, we're back at the chair. I'm sorry. Commissioner Rukavina, thank you for that.
Commissioner Nelson. I didn't know the hierarchy in the St. Louis County, if the acting chair, of which there's probably a bunch of them still living around the county, had authority over the chair of the committee that deals with this, who was never notified. That's what burns me up. So obviously you have more authority as the acting chair than the chair of the committee, Lands and Minerals, that's supposed to have some kind of connection to our director and to the administrator, who neither of which contacted me. By accident, Mr. Weber called me up late Friday afternoon. I never looked at my, are you guys on your phones all the time and your emails, looking at the emails we're getting? I'm not. I might take a day to read the emails because there's so many. So, a phone call would have been nice, if nothing else. I also want Commissioner Nelson to, since you publicly brought up any inaccuracies in my history or in my conversation, what are the inaccuracies? What are the inaccuracies that I stated today?
Commissioner Rukavina, the fighting for the loggers, when both logging communities have clearly come out in opposition of this, it is, in my opinion, Commissioner, that is an attempt to embarrass the board. And I truly believe that we as a board, I know this commissioner truly tries to listen to that logging community. Unfortunately, the ACLT has hundreds of members. Mr. Higgins, your group has literally hundreds of members of loggers, and I don't necessarily talk to all of them. I really, truly rely on their representatives, but that was one of the points that concerned me, is that you're fighting for loggers when their two representatives have clearly stated that the logging community is against this resolution at this time. That may change, Commissioner Rukavina, and I'm hopeful that it does.
I don't think, Commissioner, that is any inaccuracy on my part. I never said the Associated Contract Loggers or the Minnesota Timber Producers Association were for this resolution. In fact, it disturbs me that Mr. Dane didn't call me and Mr. Higgins, knowing that I was the original author of this legislation that created this. So it disturbs me very much. But I did get a call from one of the chief loggers who wants to keep, because he bought new equipment, supplying this. That's what we're attempting to do here. If we miss the deadline, we miss the deadline. And if Excel is not subsidizing Hibbing, Virginia anymore, there's not going to be any biomass. That's the point I'm trying to make. I don't think there were any inaccuracies in my statement. I never implied, please go to the record, that the Associated Contract Loggers or the timber producers were in support of this resolution. I'm in support of it because I want to keep the loggers logging our terrible forests, and as good a job as we do as managing our young pulp coming up, there's old balsam going down, there's other trees going down, there's no market for it. The only market is biofuels. That's what we want to do. That was the concern of Administrator Gray. That was the concern of Jason Myers, and emails that people can look back at and say, geez, we're really concerned about this. What are we going to do to keep the biofuels going? And that's why this resolution came forward. So, the hell with it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll move to adjourn.
No,
No other
Commissioner
business.
Rukavina. I do have other commissioners with their hands up, so if you...
On this issue, I'm still charged.
Commissioner Rukavina, we're at that point of the board meeting where commissioners can bring up any issues that they have or any reports that they would like to give.
So, Mr. Chair, is it official that I withdrew this until...
Commissioner Rukavina, I am respecting the fact that you withdrew it, and I believe that...
I'll go to the
Commissioner
meeting that
Rukavina-
I didn't get to go to at noon to see what's going on with the
Commissioner Stauber,
grant that's out there
you have other things
where
that...
other
Yeah.
cooperative movements are going.
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson, Chair Nelson, thank you very much. What I would like to, and I do, Commissioner Nelson and Jugovich, I support the idea of having the cities of Hibbing and Virginia really on board. The Association of Contract Truck Loggers and Truckers and the Timber Producers Association has come forward and said they're not in favor of this yet. There's still some things that need to be decided. And I feel, Mr. Chair, as when this gets supported by those, it will be much easier for this board to support the legislation. But as Mr. Higgins said, at this point, there's some things I think that need to be flushed out, and for sure, the big cities of Hibbing and Virginia need to come forward and support this, and who knows if the ACLT and timber producers will eventually, but it seems to me there's a lot of loose ends that need to be kind of brought back into play, and I'm a little bit confused myself on it, so thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Stauber. Seeing no further comments from this board, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion made.
Is there support? It has been moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Thank you all for being here today and good discussion.
Say, Commissioners, just a heads up.